Chapter 520. I want to make a trip back to the academy. Du Xiaofu recalled Tyrant Shadow back into his body. When he thought about Grand Elder Lu Yu's words, he decided to return to the academy. Since the Dark Nether sect was able to kill the students of the academy, they would not let Tianwu Academy off either. Even if the calamity was not something he could handle, he would never be able to forgive himself if he left just like that. You want to go back? Wu Kei was puzzled when she heard Ai Hui's words. She asked, the juniors and the elders of the academy should be able to leave through the space teleportation array. Why do you still want to go back? Du Xiaofu sighed when he heard Wu Kei's words. He said softly, I'm afraid they won't be able to leave. What exactly happened? How much do you know? Gu Xinyan asked Du Xiaofu with a grave expression in her beautiful eyes. Du Xiaofu looked at the crowd and scanned the surroundings. He hesitated for a moment before replying, the space teleportation array consumes a lot of resources. The academy has used up all of its resources. The last space teleportation array can only support us to leave. The rest of the people will not be able to leave through the space teleportation array. We were attacked by the Dark Nether sect here. I'm afraid there will be more people outside the academy. It's impossible for the rest of the academy to leave. When all the students heard Ai Hui's words, their faces turned grave. They did not know about this earlier. It was no wonder that the last space teleportation array only teleported 100 or so people. It turned out that the academy's resources that could support the space teleportation array had been used up. I don't know if the Dark Nether sect is just one or all of them. However, they must be here to deal with Tianwu Academy. This should be the calamity that the academy elders mentioned. Tianwu Academy is facing a calamity now. I want to return to the academy. After Du Xiaofu finished speaking, he looked at Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, and Du Xiaoyao and said, Little Blue, Little Tiger, and Du Xiaoyao, are you willing to accompany me back to the academy? Wherever third young master is, I will be there. The little tiger's body grew to a size of about 10 feet. It stood beside Du Xiaofu and glared at him fiercely. Of course I will accompany my brother, Du Xiaoqing said. Can you leave me out? Du Xiaoyao said shamelessly. Her body returned to the size of a little golden macaque, and her spirit eyes turned. Du Xiaofu, do you think you're the only one in the academy who isn't afraid of death? Do you think I'm afraid of death? If you want to go back, count me in. The general's eyes were fixed on Du Xiaofu. His gaze was resolute, and his body was covered with a faint bronze color. When one looked at him, there was an invisible aura that seemed to dominate the sky and suppress the mountains and rivers. Me too. If you want to touch Tianwu Academy, you'll have to go through me first. Ghost Child stepped forward. His black robes were as black as ink, and his handsome face exuded a sharp aura. No. Du Xiaofu looked at the general and Ghost Child and said sternly, the academy must leave behind its legacy. You can't go back. If I'm not wrong, Vice Principal Zhuge must have asked you to leave behind the legacy for the academy. Even if we have to return to the academy, it should be us. You're the one who has to leave behind the legacy for the academy. You're the only one who can truly leave behind the legacy for the academy. Gu Xinyan stepped forward, her beautiful eyes rippling. Xinyan is right. We're the ones who have to return. You're the one who has to stay behind and leave behind the legacy for the academy. Netherworld Princess Wu Kei stepped forward, looked at Du Xiaofu, and asked, therefore, we have to return together. We're all part of the academy. If the academy is gone, what's the point of talking about the legacy? The academy is sending us away with all its might, but can we really leave? Even if we're no match for them, at least we'll return. We're not cowards who are afraid of death. Tianwu Academy doesn't have cowards who are afraid of death. If we don't return, we won't be able to rest in peace. Tianwu Academy doesn't have cowards who are afraid of death. How can we leave just like that? If we don't return, we won't be able to rest in peace. Li Yuxiao's indifferent words came out from his mouth. He slightly raised his head, revealing his smooth and fair face. His deep, jet-black eyes were suffused with a red glow, causing one's heart to tremble when they looked at him. Tianwu Academy doesn't have cowards who are afraid of death. If we don't return, we won't be able to rest in peace. If we don't return, we won't be able to rest in peace. Guo Xiaofeng, Tang Wu, Yi Feiyu, and the others spoke calmly. Their voices reverberated throughout the valley, and the eyes of the hundreds of students were filled with determination and indignation. The academy was facing a calamity, and Tianwu Academy didn't have cowards who were afraid of death. How could they leave just like that? Most of the students present were seniors of Tianwu Academy. After being in the academy for so many years, they had a sense of belonging to the academy. To them, the academy was half their home, and this was the reason why the academy existed. How could they leave just like that? Do you still wish to return alone? Looking at the crowd, the general asked Du Xiaofu once more. Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered as he looked at the crowd. After which, he nodded his head and said, "Those on the martial ranking can return to the academy together. As for the other seniors of the talisman department, you should leave immediately." Junior brother Xiaofu, we're going back together. Even though our strengths aren't very strong, as a member of the academy and students of the Talisman Institute, how can we be afraid of death? Even if we leave, where can we go? Han Chao stepped forward and asked Du Xiaofu with determination in his eyes. We students of the Talisman Department want to return as well. Bing Na, Tu Tong, and the others stepped forward as well. Senior Han Chao, there are no cowards in Tianwu Academy, and there are no cowards in the Talisman Department as well. However, we have to leave behind our inheritance for Tianwu Academy. The students of the Talisman Department aren't cowards. Du Xiaofu said to Han Chao, Bing Na, and Tu Tong, if I'm not wrong, this place shouldn't be far from the chaotic demon city. Leave to the left and head to the chaotic demon city. Look for the World Society and tell them that you're here on my orders. Tell the World Society to send reinforcements to Tianwu Academy at all costs. Looking at Du Xiaofu's serious gaze, Han Chao, Bing Na, and Tu Tong were moved and nodded. Han Chao took the lead and said to the students of the Talisman Department, "Students of the Talisman Department, follow me to the chaotic demon city." Swoosh, swoosh, in a short period of time, the students of the Talisman Department stepped forward and glanced at Du Xiaofu, the general, and the others. Under Han Chao's lead, they dashed into the forest on the left and left. Everyone, let's return to the academy. I'm afraid that we won't be able to use the teleportation array. This place isn't close to the academy. I hope that we can still make it in time. Du Xiaofu's expression turned solemn. From the Chaos Demon City to Tianwu Academy, Little Tiger would need at least a day and a night to travel at full speed. If he were to calculate the time, it should be about the same. He wondered if he could make it in time. It would be great if we could activate the teleportation array. Gu Xinyan sighed with her beautiful eyes. Let's return to the academy at full speed. The general said. Du Xiaoyao's pale golden spirit eyes flickered. After hesitating for a moment, she said to Du Xiaofu, "Second brother, although you won't be able to activate the teleportation array, it has already been activated. It's just that you won't be able to use it. However, you and I will be able to return." When Du Xiaofu heard this, he didn't have the time to argue with Du Xiaoyao about who was the boss. Du Xiaofu naturally understood the meaning behind Du Xiaoyao's words. With his and Du Xiaoyao's innate talent, they could ignore all ordinary talisman arrays. The teleportation array was also a talisman array. Naturally, Du Xiaofu would be able to ignore it. Is there a way to bring everyone back? Du Xiaofu asked Du Xiaoyao. This. Du Xiaoyao's eyes flickered. She was in a difficult position. You have a way, right? Du Xiaofu knew Du Xiaoyao very well. It wasn't hard to see that Du Xiaoyao seemed to have a way to bring everyone back. Du Xiaoyao nodded. Her gaze swept past the general, Ghost Child, Gu Xinyan, and dozens of others. She sighed and said to Du Xiaofu, "There is a way. However, with my current strength, it's impossible to bring so many people." Unless what? Hurry up and say it. Du Xiaofu glared at Du Xiaoyao. "I need to consume a lot of energy, so much that it's beyond your imagination. I need a lot of spiritual medicines, spiritual weapons, and talisman weapons. In short, the more the better. Otherwise, I really can't do it," Du Xiaoyao said seriously. Du Xiaofu looked at Du Xiaoyao. He knew that Du Xiaoyao wasn't lying. Du Xiaoyao really needed a lot of spiritual herbs and spiritual weapons. "Is this enough for you?" Du Xiaofu took out his qiankuan bag and poured out most of the spiritual herbs, elixirs, and spiritual weapons. Du Xiaofu still had a small amount of elixirs and spiritual herbs left, but he couldn't take them out. They all had extremely important uses. Whatever he could take out, he took out. They were all very valuable. The spiritual herbs, elixirs, and spiritual weapons piled up in piles. Multicolored light spread out and energy fluctuations made people's hearts tremble. Du Xiaofu even took out the kitchen knife spiritual weapon that he refined before. The surrounding generals, Gu Xinyan, and the others were all dumbfounded. They did not expect Du Xiaofu to have so many treasures on him. "Although it's a lot, it's only enough for me to bring half of the people," Du Xiaoyao said. She looked at the elixirs, spiritual herbs, and spiritual weapons that Du Xiaofu took out. She didn't have her usual greedy smile. Instead, her eyes were full of seriousness. "I have some. Although it's not a lot, it's all here." Gu Xinyan stepped forward. She had been listening to Du Xiaoyao and Du Xiaofu's conversation. Although she didn't know the specific reason, she poured out a lot of elixirs and spiritual herbs from her qiankuan bag. There were also 2 ordinary spiritual weapons. "I have some too. And mine." The general, Ghost Child, Li Yuxiao, Guo Xiaofeng, and Wu Kei stepped forward without any hesitation. They poured out a lot of elixirs, spiritual herbs, and spiritual weapons from their qiankuan bags. Chapter 521. There's still hours. Upon hearing those words, the crowd, including Black Eagle, Tang Wu, Cloud-Chasing Swallow, Yi Feiyu, and the others, took out their universe pouches and filled them with pills and spirit herbs. Some of them didn't even use spirit artifacts. Spirit herbs, pills, and spirit artifacts piled up together like a haystack. Resplendent light permeated the air and energy rippled through the air. It was an exceptionally dazzling sight. "Is it enough now?" After everyone had taken out their pills and spirit artifacts, Du Xiaofu turned to Du Xiaoyao and asked. "I don't know either. I'll try my best. However, there are too many people. Even if I can do it, I'm afraid that it will take longer than when we used the teleportation formation." Du Xiaoyao replied. Looking at the haystack of spirit herbs, pills, and spirit artifacts, she didn't seem to be happy at all. Dusk. In Tianwu Academy, the sun shone its final rays on the majestic mountains and ancient buildings. The sunset was like a red leaf falling from the sky. Under the setting sun, everything was dyed a dark purple, resembling a reef amidst a sea of clouds. On the vast square outside the Tianwu Talisman Formation, the remaining students stood quietly. Someone asked a question but was told by the teachers and elders to wait patiently. No one was allowed to speak. Under the setting sun, the mountains outside Tianwu Academy were shrouded in a crimson glow. What happened in Tianwu Academy? There seems to be a huge commotion. Could something have happened in Tianwu Academy? Let's wait and see. Perhaps, we might be able to reap some benefits. Outside of Tianwu Academy, some of the escort agencies and powers nearby were observing the happenings in Tianwu Academy. They guessed that the huge commotion in Tianwu Academy meant that something big had happened. Perhaps, their fortuitous encounter had arrived and they might be able to obtain some benefits from it. One must know that Tianwu Academy was a sacred ground with countless years of history behind it. Even though its reputation was no longer what it used to be and was gradually declining, any benefits that could be reaped from it were still a huge fortuitous encounter to the outside world. This was sufficient for countless people to covet it. Amidst the mountains, valleys, and forests, thousands of masked figures were looking in the direction of Tianwu Academy. At this moment, they seemed to be waiting for something. Chi! At this moment, above the canyon, the space above suddenly fluctuated. The red sunset clouds fluctuated, and a cold aura descended upon the mountains. Roar! At this moment, as if they had sensed something, countless ferocious birds fell from the mountain range, their bodies trembling. Ferocious beasts crawled and roared, hibernating in their caves, not daring to come out. Dark forest, dark city, outside the Mu family trading company. Beside the simple and crude tea stall, an old woman with a head full of silver hair and sparkling white light seemed to have sensed something. Suddenly, she raised her head slightly. Her face was full of wrinkles, and the lines at the corners of her eyes were like two open fans. She looked at the sky in front of her. Within Tianwu Academy, the sunset glow rippled in the sky and a chilling aura permeated the air. It silently caused one's soul to tremble and a chill to run down their spines. On the plaza outside the Tianwu Seal, all of the Tianwu Academy students looked at the sky in confusion. At this moment, everyone could sense the killing intent in the chilling aura. Could the calamity that the elders spoke of have something to do with this? Tianwu Academy was surrounded by mountains. At the top of an ancient pagoda in a canyon, the supreme elder of Qingyu sect and the others were gathered at the top of the pagoda. Their expressions were grave as they looked at the chilling aura descending from the sunset glow. They're here. They seem to be from the Dark Nether sect. Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang frowned. His savage face had a grave expression on it. It seems like they intend to make a move. I didn't expect the Dark Nether sect to be the first to make a move. A grave expression appeared on Elder Zhou's aged face as he muttered, could it be that the Dark Nether sect is the first to make a move on our Tianwu Academy? Sigh, Supreme Elder Qingyu sect sighed. His expression was grave, but he was calm. He knew that this day would come sooner or later. It was just a matter of time. Then, he looked at the people around him and said, Tianwu Academy is facing a calamity today. Are you all prepared? Tianwu Academy is our roots. Whoever dares to come, will fight them to the death. Many of the elders in the inner court had solemn expressions as they shouted in unison. None of them had any intention of taking a step back. Since that's the case, let's fight to the death. I'd like to see how the Dark Nether sect is capable of dealing with our Tianwu Academy. Supreme Elder Qingyu sect shouted. His voice was sonorous. Waves of air began to spread from his seemingly shriveled body. His aura erupted like a volcano. Activate the talisman formation. A moment later, a voice echoed in Tianwu Academy, reverberating in the air. Rumble, following which, countless pillars of light shot into the sky from the surroundings of Tianwu Academy. They intertwined with each other before they gathered together and transformed into a huge talisman formation that enveloped Tianwu Academy. At this instant, the earth quaked and the mountains shook as though there was an earthquake. An ancient aura spread out in all directions as a pressure enveloped the academy. Welcome, Vice Sect Master. In the canyon, the leader of the group was an old man wearing a mask. His eyes were cold as he looked at the sunset clouds in the sky and bowed respectfully. Welcome, Vice Sect Master. In the canyon, the masked man knelt down and bowed respectfully. His voice reverberated in the canyon. Those of Tianwu Academy, listen up. Those who surrender will be spared. Otherwise, we won't spare your life. A sinister voice sounded from the red clouds, and it was as though a cold rainstorm had descended upon the world. When the voice landed in the ears of everyone in Tianwu Academy, it caused their blood to freeze, their profound energy to freeze, and their souls to shiver. Tianwu Academy has never had anyone who fears death. If you're capable, break the formation first. The aged voice resounded out like a thunderclap, and it even diluted the cold aura. Since that's the case, let's break the formation then. The red clouds rippled, and the cold voice continued to reverberate in the surroundings. So. Inside the canyon, there were about 10 to 20 figures rushing out like lightning. All of them were Martial King Realm cultivators. The figures at the front didn't seem to be Martial King Realm cultivators, especially the gloomy old man who was in the lead. At this moment, his aura was even more terrifying. Break the formation. As soon as the masked old man's voice sounded, dozens of experts stepped into the air and waved their hands. Inscriptions flashed in their hands, and overwhelming profound energy surged in their hands. Following which, terrifying attacks were launched toward Tianwu Academy. Hong Long Long, as the experts made their moves, their attacks seemed to be able to distort space. Terrifying spatial energy surged forth like a tsunami, crashing toward Tianwu Academy. Wherever the attacks passed by, forests were destroyed, mountains crumbled, the ground cracked, and gales swept across the sky. Walala, under such a vast wave of energy, the terrifying attack appeared on the formation above Tianwu Academy. In an instant, it was blocked by a formless spatial barrier. Ripples of ancient aura rippled from the formless barrier, and one could vaguely see a dragon soaring and a tiger leaping about, giving off a heaven-shaking aura. Continue. The old man in the lead said indifferently. Cold stars flickered in his eyes as he continued to attack the formation. Every time he made a move, a figure would leap through the air and approach Tianwu Academy. Not far behind him, thousands of figures were following closely behind, emitting a chilling aura of blood. Hong Long Long. A terrifying sound reverberated from the talisman array in the sky above Tianwu Academy. Following the attacks of the 20 experts, the ancient aura on the talisman array rippled continuously. Illusory figures that resembled soaring dragons and leaping tigers rippled continuously. The mysterious inscriptions on the talisman array flickered and a deafening rumble resounded in the sky like a thunderclap, shaking one's soul. Under the continuous attacks of the 20 experts, terrifying gales swept across the sky, causing the surrounding mountains to crumble and the ground to crack. This was especially so for the few experts at the front. Their strength seemed to have surpassed the Martial King realm. Under such ferocious attacks, the formation was on the verge of collapse, and it was unlikely that it would be able to hold on for much longer. Is this the calamity of Tianwu Academy? All the students on the plaza outside the heavenly martial symbol realm were currently staring at the unceasingly trembling symbol array. After hearing the dark and cold words that sounded like thunder from before, they roughly understood what the great calamity that the elders were talking about was. Unknowingly, their fists were tightly clenched. Looks like Tianwu Academy does have some foundation. We really have to use the Crimson Dipper lightning bullet that we specially prepared for you. I hope that destroying Tianwu Academy will be worth one Crimson Dipper lightning bullet. Amidst the sunset glow, the chilling bellow could be heard clearly amidst the aftershocks of the rumbling sounds. Following which, the energy in the surroundings suddenly went berserk. A crimson streak of light descended like a bolt of lightning, piercing through space and landing on the gigantic formation above Tianwu Academy. Wang! As the crimson streak of light landed on the formation, a thunderous explosion sounded. Streaks of energy burst forth like countless lightning bolts under the setting sun. What's going on with Tianwu Academy? At this moment, the entire dark forest was trembling. Countless gazes turned toward the direction of Tianwu Academy. Thunder rumbled in the direction of Tianwu Academy, and it seemed as though countless lightning bolts were wreaking havoc in the sky. It was as though a gigantic lightning star had been born. Hong Long Long, the crimson streak of lightning exploded, and a destructive energy spread out, wrapping the gigantic formation above Tianwu Academy into a gigantic lightning star. Rumbling lightning bolts shuttled back and forth, and layers of energy waves appeared in the void. Continue to write. The hot-blooded chapter is about to begin. I beg for fresh flowers, recommendations, and support. Chapter 522. Even if a martial king were to come into contact with such a vast and mighty energy wave, they would be instantly turned into ashes and scattered in a puff of smoke. Crack, crack. The lightning wreaked havoc on the Tianwu Academy's talisman array. On the distorted light barrier, the illusory images of the soaring dragon and leaping tiger were gradually destroyed. Under the bombardment of the lightning, the talisman array dimmed and finally, it started to crack. Students of the Academy, a calamity has befallen Tianwu Academy. The teleportation talisman array has been depleted of its resources and can no longer be activated. After the array is destroyed, try to find a way to escape. As long as even one of you is left alive, even if the legacy of our Tianwu Academy doesn't perish, from today onwards, Tianwu Academy will no longer be able to protect you. Take care of yourselves. Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang's voice resounded. Following which, an elderly figure stepped into the air. Behind him, dozens of terrifying auras spread out. We will advance and retreat together with the Academy. There are no cowards in Tianwu Academy who are afraid of death. Even though the students in the plaza felt a chill in their hearts, none of them retreated. Elder He Hu roared with laughter, ha 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 ha, as expected of the students of Tianwu Academy. Today, we will fight to the death. Rumble. The talisman array finally shattered. At the same time, a thunderous explosion resounded. Lightning swept across the sky and a terrifying energy wave spread out. Even from afar, one could feel the profound energy in one's body stagnating, causing one's hair to stand on end. Many of the buildings in Tianwu Academy were also flattened. Bang bang bang. Within the Tianwu Talisman realm, the two massive peaks at the entrance of the plaza cracked and the words Tianwu Academy collapsed. The massive martial ranking board and bounty board also crumbled under the impact of the lightning. Bang bang bang. On the Peace Plaza, the ground trembled. Cracks appeared and the plaza was reduced to ruins. In the sky, the terrifying energy wave gradually dissipated. As the talisman array shattered, over 1,000 figures wearing strange masks appeared before the eyes of everyone in the academy. A chilling aura descended from the sky, enveloping the ancient Tianwu Academy. Amidst the ripples of the sunset glow, a chilling figure gradually emerged from the red clouds. It was a skinny old man in his 60s. He was dressed in a gray robe and had a gloomy expression on his face. The chilly aura emanating from his body seemed to cover the sky and the sun. His eyes flickered with coldness as he stared at the people gathered in the plaza outside the Tianwu Talisman realm. He laughed coldly and his eerie voice carried a bone-chilling intent that caused one's hair to stand on end as it resounded throughout the area. I've already said that if you don't surrender, I'll slaughter everyone in Tianwu Academy. Following the eerie voice, the withered body of Grand Elder Qing Yu leaped out. She looked at the thousands of sinister and bloody figures before turning to the eerie old man who seemed to be in his 60s and said indifferently, "Old man Yin Ming, I didn't expect you to still be alive. However, I'm still alive. Do you think that you can destroy my Tianwu Academy with just you alone? Qing Yu, you're already in your twilight years. Today, Tianwu Academy will disappear before your eyes. Of course, you'll disappear as well." The old man who was addressed as Old Man Yinming sneered as a cold glint flashed in his eyes. As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his hand and looked at the Dark Nether sect members behind him as he shouted, "Massacre Tianwu Academy. Leave no one alive. Kill them all." "Yes, Vice Sect Master." As soon as Old Man Yinming's words left his mouth, the leader of the Dark Nether sect let out a cold cry in unison. Waves of cold, bloody aura gushed out from his body. Soon after, numerous figures, accompanied by a vast and mighty killing intent, swept across the sky and crushed the Tianwu Academy students from every direction. Massacre Tianwu Academy. Leave no one alive. An ear-piercing yell resounded in the air above Tianwu Academy, causing the ancient Tianwu Academy to be filled with killing intent. "Let's fight to the death." Elder He Hu shouted loudly. When he saw the Dark Nether sect's disciples charging toward him, he took the lead and flew out. His profound energy surged as he instantly blocked a martial marquis from the Dark Nether sect. Kill! All of the Tianwu Academy's elders quickly made their moves. Waves of profound energy shot out and blocked the Dark Nether sect's disciples. Let's fight to the death! The Tianwu Academy students shouted in unison as they gripped their weapons tightly. Numerous figures also flew out and charged toward the Dark Nether sect's disciples. Rumble! In an instant, both sides clashed. Talismans flew and profound energy swept out. The talisman inscriptions on the talismans were dazzling, causing the ancient heaven and earth energy to surge. The murderous aura filled the sky and blotted out the sun. Swish! 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 The leader of the Dark Nether sect was an old man who wore a mask. Two other masked figures charged out at lightning speed. Just as they were about to slaughter the Tianwu Academy's disciples, 3 streaks of light shot out from the sky above Tianwu Academy. They were Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang, Elder Zhou, and the Inner Court's Grand Elder. 2 6-star mysterious talisman masters and a quasi-martial monarch. I didn't expect Tianwu Academy to have such a lineup. I'm a little surprised. However, it's still not enough. The masked old man looked at Zhuge Qiangbang, Elder Zhou, and the Inner Court's Grand Elder with a hint of surprise in his eyes. However, a sinister smile soon appeared on his face as he waved his hand and said to the 2 people beside him, "Leave the 6-star talisman master in the middle to me. Both of you deal with the other 2. Kill!" The 2 Dark Nether sect's disciples released their vast and mighty auras as they charged toward the Inner Court's Grand Elder and Elder Zhou. Their cold and sharp auras surged out and swept out. They were ready to kill as soon as they attacked. Kill! The Inner Court's Grand Elder and Elder Zhou shouted coldly. Their eyes were filled with coldness as terrifying energy spread out. They immediately attacked. "It's your turn." The remaining old man sneered. His figure moved like an afterimage as he appeared in front of Zhuge Qiangbang in an instant. He waved his hand like a claw as cold and sharp energy gathered. A claw print tore through the sky and crushed Zhuge Qiangbang. Humph! Vice Dean Zhuge Qiangbang narrowed his eyes slightly. His eyes that seemed lifeless suddenly glowed brightly. A strange fluctuation of runic energy appeared, and his figure instantly broke free from his opponent's restraint. "We swear to fight to the death. We'll fight to the death with the Academy." At the same time, the group of Inner Court elders charged out and clashed with the powerhouses from Dark Nether sect. Bang! 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 The low and deep sounds of energy reverberated in the sky above the ancient academy as vast and mighty energy swept out. You, what are you waiting for? Make your move. You've lived for so long, and it's time for you to die. Old man Yin Ming dove down from the sky like a bolt of lightning and instantly collided with Yu Yu's Supreme Elder. "Yin Ming, as long as Tianwu Academy has a legacy, I'll make you regret it forever." Yu Yu's Supreme Elder shouted as he charged forward and attacked. He instantly collided with old man Yin Ming's body like a meteor. The terrifying runic energy swept out in the sky like a huge storm. Bang! The attacks of Old Man Yin Ming and Supreme Elder Qing Yu destroyed the distorted space and shattered the surrounding space. Both of them seemed to be on par with each other for a moment. "As expected, you're quite capable. However, I'm afraid it's useless today. Tianwu Academy will be annihilated today." Old Man Yin Ming's chilling aura covered the sky and the sun, enveloping the horizon of the setting sun. Wave after wave of attacks were unleashed. Wherever the attacks passed, the space would be torn apart, faintly forming spatial cracks. Such attacks were truly too terrifying. "You're not strong enough." Yu Yu's Supreme Elder shouted angrily. The profound energy in his shriveled body surged out like a torrential flood and continuously blocked Old Man Yin Ming's attacks. Bang! 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 As the two of them fought, Every time their silhouettes flickered and collided, dazzling runic lights and muffled energy would erupt. The violent energy spread out in all directions as though it could move mountains and overturn seas. It caused the surrounding mountains to explode one after another. This kind of battle was truly breathtaking. Kill. Within Tianwu Academy, there were around 8,000 students blocking the people from the Dark Nether sect. The sound of killing filled the air. A bloody and cold aura spread out along with many miserable shrieks. In just a short period of time, the area outside the Tianwu Talisman Zone was drenched in blood. It was a tragic sight. There were many students in Tianwu Academy. However, the people from the Dark Nether sect were all at the Meridian Spirit Realm and above. There were also many Martial Marquis Realm cultivators among them. Therefore, even if the Tianwu Academy students gathered together, it was still difficult for them to fend off the Dark Nether sect. It did not take long before many students were killed. They were unable to fight back against the Dark Nether sect. Elder Sun Biyue, Elder Murongxi, Elder Liao, and the other elders of Tianwu Academy were fighting with all their might. However, their situation was not optimistic. In fact, they were in grave danger. All students, listen up. Think of a way to escape. Tianwu Academy will only continue to exist if all of you leave. Only then will we be able to take revenge for the seniors who died today. Yu Supreme Elder shouted at Old Man Yin Ming. His voice reverberated throughout the academy. He hoped that some of the students would escape and leave behind more inheritances for Tianwu Academy. All students, listen up. Follow the elders and kill our way out. Sun Biyue shouted. Tears welled up in her eyes when she saw the tragic deaths of the students. She shouted for the students to escape. They could not wait to die. Chapter 523. Many elders immediately thought of a way to gather together and attack together, intending to break out of the encirclement with some students. The Dark Nether sect's experts immediately appeared and sealed off the path as they began their massacre. Bang! 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 A fierce battle broke out. The talismans shattered, and the mysterious inscriptions on the talismans were destroyed. Under the siege of the Dark Nether sect's experts, many elders were severely injured and could not defend themselves. Many of the students who had gathered were shocked. Under such an intense battle, the weaker students trembled violently. Open up a path of blood. Elder Liao, Elder He Hu, and the others shouted. Even though they were injured, they still activated their spirit and talisman weapons and attacked with all their might. Elder Sun Biyue and Elder Murongxi took the opportunity to set up a talisman formation and tried their best to open up a path of blood. They led the group of students to break out of the encirclement. Under such circumstances, if they could let one more student escape, they would let one more student escape. TSK, none of you will be able to escape. The Dark Nether sect's expert shouted coldly with a hint of mockery in his voice. Waves of cold and bloody auras swept out. They would not let the Tianwu Academy's disciples escape. The Dark Nether sect's people wanted to kill them all. Waves of terrifying attacks swept out and killed a few of the Academy's elders who were weaker. Many students were also affected by the attacks. They didn't even have time to scream before their bodies turned into blood mist. I'll fight it out with all of you. Elder He Hu, Elder Liao, and the others shouted in grief and anger. They attacked with all their might, but the situation was getting worse. Rumble, as the earth quaked and the mountains collapsed, more elders from the academy were killed. Although many members of the Dark Nether sect were killed during the chaos, the number of deaths was much fewer compared to the number of deaths in Tianwu Academy. Elders. When the Tianwu Academy's students saw their elders dying in order to protect them, they cried out in grief. Their eyes were bloodshot, and tears welled up in their eyes. Kill. Let's fight it out with them. All the students shouted. Their bloodlust was aroused, and their eyes were bloodshot as they fought with all their might. However, the battle in the sky was so intense that most of the Tianwu Academies and Dark Nether Sects members did not dare to get close to it. Ordinary people could not interfere in such an intense battle. The sun was setting, the red clouds dimmed, and the sky darkened. However, in the sky above the ancient grounds of Tianwu Academy, there was a dazzling radiance as runes flickered. The only thing that could be heard was the miserable shrieks and howls, as well as the rumbling of the sonic booms. On the plaza outside the Heaven Martial Talisman realm, blood had long since flowed like a river, causing one's hair to stand on end. Chi-la-la, all of a sudden, not many people noticed that in a certain area of the plaza outside the Heavenly Martial Talisman, there was a sudden burst of light. Following which, there were dazzling talisman runes surging. Then, the sky above suddenly began to distort. Spatial folds appeared in the surrounding space, and spatial waves rippled out in all directions. Finally, they condensed into a spatial gate formed by mysterious runes, as though it had directly torn space apart. As the aura grew denser, it finally attracted the attention of many people. Under the attentive gazes of several people, they were astonished to see golden light spreading out from within the spatial symbol puppet's mysterious inscription door. Boom! The light was dazzling, and then a huge shadow of a five-fingered mountain flew out from the spatial gate. A domineering aura spread out, and the sound was like the sound of wind and thunder. Dense spiritual energy spread out, and the pressure was rolling. Swoosh, 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 following which, the golden light from the shadow of the mountain slowly dissipated, and the figures of extraordinary men and women appeared in the sky. All of them had an imposing appearance, and all of them were extraordinary. Especially the dozen people at the front, they were not simple at all. Second brother, I've already done my best. I can't do anything else, so I need to lay low for a period of time. Be careful. Du Xiaoyao's voice came from the shadow of the golden mountain. Then, it turned into a palm-sized rock and landed on Du Xiaofu's palm. Du Xiaoyao had exhausted too much energy, and he had used all his strength to bring everyone back. Although he had consumed many elixirs and spiritual herbs, he could no longer hold on. He had already exhausted all his strength. At this moment, the extraordinary figures of men and women were none other than the general, Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, and the others who had returned from the martial role after Du Xiaoyao had consumed numerous pills, elixirs, and spirit artifacts to activate her innate talent. The general, Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, Wu Kei, Guo Xiaofeng, Li Yuxiao, and the others looked at their surroundings. When they saw the blood flowing like a river and the academy turned into ruins, their eyes turned scarlet red, and profound energy surged out from their bodies. Senior Du is back. General Bu Dian, Lady Ling Xian, Gu Xinyan, they're back. They're back. They didn't abandon us. When the students of Tianwu Academy saw those familiar figures, joy filled their eyes, and agitation filled their hearts. Sigh. Only the Supreme Elder of Qingyu Island, Vice Dean Zhuge Qiangbang, and the others sighed softly. They did not know if they should be happy or worried when they saw those figures returning. Du Xiaofu put away Du Xiaoyao's mountain and looked at the tragic battle around him. His clear eyes shone with a cold golden light as he spoke through gritted teeth, those who offend Tianwu Academy will be killed without mercy. Wang! Du Xiaofu directly summoned the Tyrant Shadow after those sharp words sounded. A shocking aura immediately swept out, causing many people to suddenly shiver. The depths of their souls also trembled as their gazes landed on the Tyrant Shadow in shock. Those who offend Tianwu Academy will be killed without mercy. The general, Gu Xinyan, and the others shouted in unison. Their eyes were bloodshot from the intense battle. Their eyes were filled with killing intent as they charged toward the Dark Nether Sect's men. Roar! The little tiger roared as it revealed its true form. Black talisman inscriptions soared into the sky as it flapped its wings and charged toward the Dark Nether Sect's members. Humph! Du Xiaoqing shouted as a terrifying aura burst out from her graceful body. A dazzling green light shone as she charged into the crowd of Dark Nether Sect's members and began her massacre. Spurt, Elder Murongshi was heavily injured from the encirclement on the ground. His body was sent flying as blood spurted from his mouth. He could not resist at all. Die! A dark nether sex martial marquis chased after Murongshi. His aura was sharp and bloody, and he moved as fast as lightning. In just a blink of an eye, he appeared before Murongshi and slashed out with his saber. He wanted to tear the space apart and kill Murongshi. Die! A golden figure appeared like a bolt of golden lightning. Du Xiaofu's figure was wrapped in golden profound energy as he appeared before Murongshi. Without any delay, he raised his hand and slashed out with his sword. Wang! It seemed like a simple slash, but the sound of wind and thunder instantly reverberated in the air. An azure gold light shone brightly, and the sword ray instantly reached the dark nether sex martial marquis at lightning speed. It was a simple slash, but it was enough to shake mountains and rivers. It caused mountains to crumble and the ground to crack. It was enough to destroy everything. Wherever the sword light passed, a long trench appeared on the ground of the square below, one after another. Swish! Swish! Before the dark nether sex martial marquis could regain his senses, his saber ray was destroyed. His spirit weapon was shattered into pieces. In the end, even his body was slashed into two. He was killed by the sword. Kill! Du Xiaofu was enraged. His eyes gleamed coldly as he waved his hand and unleashed the tyrant shadow. Every slash of the sword could turn the dark nether sex members into blood mist. What made the dark nether sex members even more fearful was that Du Xiaofu completely ignored their attacks. He revealed his most brutal side as he waved the tyrant shadow in his hand. The dark nether sex members were killed one after another, including a few martial marquis. They could not even withstand a single blow from him. This kid is powerful. His weapon is even more extraordinary. Let's join forces and kill him. The dark nether sex members realized how terrifying Du Xiaofu was. It was difficult for anyone to stop the purple-robed young man. Even a martial marquis at the peak of the perfected martial marquis stage would tremble when facing him alone. Therefore, they immediately gathered more than 20 martial marquis stage powerhouses and attacked Du Xiaofu with all their might. Their bodies were wrapped in vain soul silhouettes. Boom! Boom! In an instant, a vast and terrifying energy engulfed Du Xiaofu. A rumbling sound reverberated in the air as the cold and sharp energy swept across the sky. Even an ordinary martial king would have to retreat when facing such a terrifying attack. Die, all of you! Du Xiaofu let out a cold shout. Fierce murderous aura rippled around his body. Instead of retreating, he moved forward. Layers of light bloomed on top of the tyrant shadow in his hand, turning into layers of green gold sword whips that swept out like spirit pythons, flood dragons, and giant rocks. Bang! 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 The azure gold sword whips shot out fiercely. They were agile and bewitching. They were dazzling and dazzling. At the same time, they killed the 20 dark nether sex martial marquis stage powerhouses who had activated their vain souls at an unbelievable angle. Thud! 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 However, under the joint attack of the 20 or so martial marquis experts, Du Xiaofu's figure also staggered back a few steps. His face was slightly pale, as if he had been affected quite a bit. Kill! Du Xiaofu stabilized his body and continued to attack the dark nether sex members ferociously. It was as though he could ignore all the attacks. Sword rays shot out and charged forward. Wherever they passed, it was a nightmare for the dark nether sex members. Whoosh! Many dark nether sex members were mercilessly killed by Du Xiaofu. Then, a perfected martial marquis stage powerhouse's special armor was shattered by Du Xiaofu's sword. The powerhouse spat out a mouthful of blood and was forced to activate the strange armored beast vein soul. Whoosh! Du Xiaofu wielded the tyrant shadow. At the same time, the golden talisman inscriptions on his body shone brightly like the rising sun. His domineering and fierce aura suddenly intensified and swept out. Then, a pair of talisman inscriptions' wings flapped on his back and soared into the 9 heavens like a roc's. Whoosh! The mighty pressure on the tyrant's shadow intensified and channeled the heaven and earth energy. It directly killed the perfected martial marquis stage powerhouse from Dark Nether sect in midair. Continue writing. Looking for fresh flowers and recommendations. Chapter 524. Kill. Du Shaoqing made her move. At this moment, her pure and innocent eyes had turned cold and intimidating. A terrifying energy fluctuation accompanied by a terrifying pressure that was not inferior to the golden-winged rock's aura spread out. Her long black hair fluttered behind her back as her seductive and graceful body flashed. A large number of Dark Nether sect's members were killed as easily as withered twigs. That purple-robed boy and the green-dressed girl are powerful. Quickly kill them. The cold-masked old man who was fighting fiercely with Vice Dean Zhuge Qiangbang immediately shouted when he noticed Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaoqing's terrifying strength. Kill this girl. The 3 Martial King realm experts from Dark Nether sect sensed the terrifying aura on Du Xiaoqing's body and immediately joined forces to besiege Du Xiaoqing. Die! An old man who was wearing a mask and a cloak blocked Du Xiaofu's path. He was holding a strange curved saber that was at the level of a talisman weapon. It was like a crescent moon with strange and ferocious patterns engraved on it. There was a curved handle and a dagger-like inner blade in the saber. The saber radiance swept out and slashed toward Du Xiaofu. Kill. Du Xiaofu was as ferocious as a peerless beast. The talisman wings on his back fluttered like a rock descending. His long black hair fluttered behind his shoulders. The tyrannical shadow in his hand continuously struck the opponent's curved saber talisman weapon. Sparks flew in all directions as the talisman symbols soared into the sky. How can a mere martial marquis be so powerful? The old man who was fighting fiercely with Du Xiaofu became more and more fearful as the battle went on. The purple-robed young man was indeed terrifyingly powerful. His domineering strength swept out like a peerless rock, causing his saber-wielding arm to go numb and the profound qi in his body to surge. Let's kill this kid together. A few martial marquis experts from the Dark Nether sect stepped out. Among them, there were probably some who were at the peak of the consummate martial marquis realm. They charged towards Du Xiaofu, wanting to kill Du Xiaofu. They all felt that this purple-robed young man was too terrifying. Tyrant Shadow Transformation. Du Xiaofu brandished his tyrannical shadow, his figure drifting like a god. His aura was ferocious and ferocious, his eyes glittering with golden light. Tyrannical shadow was bewitching, like a great rock moving through the sky. Du Xiaofu actually took the opportunity to kill a martial lord under his sword whip. Kill this brat. The old man from the Dark Nether sect who was at the initial Martial King realm was furious. He did not expect that even with so many people besieging him, they still could not do anything to the brat. Instead, another martial marquis was killed. He was instantly enraged. The curved talisman weapon in his hand fiercely emitted a saber ray. The saber ray wrapped in talisman symbols swept towards Du Xiaofu like a wave. Du Xiaofu was ferocious and ferocious. At this moment, his killing intent exploded. However, his mind was not clouded by his killing intent. Naturally, he would not forcefully resist this majestic attack. Whoosh whoosh, Du Xiaofu's figure drifted like a god. Together with the speed of the golden-winged rock, the two of them merged into one. With an unbelievable angle and speed, they barely dodged the terrifying saber ray. Qi. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's shoulder was pierced by the spear of a martial marquis. Instantly, a shallow bloody hole appeared on his shoulder and blood flowed out. If it was someone else, their entire shoulder would have been pierced through by the spear. The consequences were unimaginable. Boom! Just as his shoulder was pierced by the spear, Du Xiaofu waved his hand and flapped the sky-shaking wings. Golden talisman mysterious inscriptions swept out like a giant rock flapping its wings. It directly sent the martial marquis flying, causing him to spit out blood. Whoosh whoosh, however, at the same time, a few martial marquis and the dark nether sex old man who had just ascended to the martial king stage besieged him again. Du Xiaofu did not want to give up. His body flapped his wings continuously as he dodged and pounced on the martial marquis who was holding the spear. My life is over. Finally, under the unwilling and resentful gaze of the martial marquis, Du Xiaofu pierced through his chest with a single sword strike, chasing him down and killing him. Come on, kill. Du Xiaofu sneered. At this moment, the more he killed, the more brutal he became. His eyes were bloodshot. While being besieged by many dark nether sex powerhouses, the runic wings on his back flapped. He was extremely valiant as he fought head-on with the martial king stage powerhouse who had just ascended to the martial king stage. The battle was too tragic. All the academy's students were moved when they saw it from the corner of their eyes. They saw Du Xiaofu's body was drenched in blood, but he was still brutally fighting against his enemies. He killed his way in and out of the encirclement of the dark nether sex powerhouses. He was extremely valiant. His body was covered in wounds, but he was not afraid at all. He did not even take half a step back. At this moment, everyone in the academy had engraved that valiant figure in the depths of their souls. It stimulated and encouraged them to do their best to kill their enemies. Kill this brat. The martial king stage old man from the dark nether sect was extremely furious. He communicated with his martial vein and activated his vein soul. His figure transformed into a terrifying black demon wolf. The vein soul activated by a martial king stage cultivator was even more terrifying than a martial marquis stage cultivator. It was as though his body had transformed into a real demon beast. The demon wolf held the talisman weapon scimitar in its sharp claws and swept it toward Du Xiaofu. Kill! Du Xiaofu still did not retreat. The tyrannical shadow sword in his hand shone brightly. The wings on his back were overbearing as he began his massacre. Chi! Another perfected martial marquis stage dark nether sex cultivator was pierced between his eyebrows by Du Xiaofu. The runic symbol shattered, and fresh blood spurted out. He was killed on the spot. The scene was terrifying. Chi La! At the same time, the martial king stage old man from the dark nether sect finally broke through Du Xiaofu's defense with his scimitar talisman weapon and landed on Du Xiaofu's back. Chi la la, wherever the scimitar passed, the runic wings on Du Xiaofu's back were directly shattered. A deep bloody wound appeared on his back, and pale golden blood spurted out violently. At this moment, an ordinary cultivator with the same cultivation base, even a peak-perfected martial marquis, would definitely be cut into two by the talisman weapon of a martial king stage early stage cultivator. Pooh! Du Xiaofu's body staggered forward, and he almost fell. A large mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth. Kill! As his body staggered forward, Du Xiaofu was still spitting out blood. However, he still gritted his teeth and sneered. He swung his sword and the sword whip pierced through the air. Another martial marquis stage dark nether sex cultivator was killed by Du Xiaofu. What a ferocious guy. Looking at Du Xiaofu's ferocious aura, the dark nether sex people present were completely shocked. The purple-robed young man was too ferocious. It was simply terrifying. Bastard, I'll definitely cut you into pieces today. When the martial king stage early stage dark nether sex cultivator who had activated his pulse soul saw that the purple-robed young man was still able to kill one dark nether sex disciple after another under his suppression, he was so enraged that he almost went crazy. He waved his wolf claws, and the saber ray on his curved talisman weapon flashed as he slashed it toward Du Xiaofu again. You won't be able to kill him today. At this moment, a deep voice suddenly resonated in the sky. After that, a rune energy beam shot out from thin air, and it directly distorted the air like a fried dough twist. The energy in this area also began to tremble violently before it directly collided with the saber ray of the martial marquis stage early stage dark nether sex old man. Bang! When the two collided, a terrifying energy swept out in an instant. Majestic energy rippled out, and a large number of runes shattered. The ground below shook, and cracks appeared everywhere. Humph! The martial king stage early stage dark nether sex old man who had activated his pulse soul staggered back dozens of meters. A muffled groan came from his throat, and blood immediately flowed out from the corner of his hideous mouth. His ferocious eyes were filled with violent fluctuations. Tsk tisk. Soon after, two figures descended from the sky. One of them was a grey-robed old man. His aura was rippling, and it was enough to shake one's soul. The other one was a one-eyed burly man. At this moment, his single eye was gradually shrouded in the night sky, and it was as sharp as a large saber. Old Yao, Eagle King. Du Xiaofu was slightly surprised. He did not expect the Medicine King, Yi Wuming, and the Eagle King, Gong Dao, to come. Du Xiaofu was slightly puzzled. Could it be that Senior Han Chao and the others had arrived at the disordered demon city so quickly? Even if Senior Han Chao and the others had arrived at the disordered demon city, the Medicine King, Yi Wuming, and the Eagle King, Gong Dao, would not have arrived at Tianwu Academy so quickly unless they had already left. Yi Wuming from Tianwu Academy is here to help. Whoever dares to lay a finger on Tianwu Academy, I'll kill them all. As the Medicine King, Yi Wuming, appeared, he swept his gaze across the intense battle. His eyes turned crimson, and killing intent surged out from him as he shouted loudly. Are you all right? I'm here to help. The Medicine King was also a student of Tianwu Academy's talisman department back then. After receiving news of the calamity in Tianwu Academy, we rushed over. The Eagle King, Gong Dao, landed beside Du Xiaofu. He seemed to have noticed Du Xiaofu's surprise and explained to Du Xiaofu. So, Old Yao is actually from Tianwu Academy. Du Xiaofu was shocked. He didn't expect the Medicine King, Yi Wuming, to be a student of Tianwu Academy. It was no wonder why the Medicine King would appear to help him when he fought for the ethereal spirit Heavenly Vine in the dark forest. It turned out that the great Medicine King, Yi Wuming, was actually from Tianwu Academy back then. Who dares to lay a finger on Tianwu Academy? Do you think that there's no one in Tianwu Academy? Stone Dragon Empire's South Vanquishing Prince, Ouyang Qi, is here. Stone Dragon Empire's East Vanquishing Prince, General Zhenghua, is here. Who dares to lay a finger on Tianwu Academy? As the Medicine King, Yi Wuming's voice sounded, two thunderous roars could be heard from the distant sky. Boom, following which, two figures wrapped in runes descended from the sky. Two majestic old men appeared. They were the Stone Dragon Empire's South Vanquishing Prince, Ouyang Qi, and East Vanquishing Prince, General Zhenghua. They were once students of Tianwu Academy, so how could they bear to see Tianwu Academy suffer a calamity? The Turing Empire's Xiaoming monarch has arrived. Those who bully my Tianwu Empire will be killed without mercy. In a short instant, another roar sounded like that of a wild beast. An expert shrouded in multicolored light descended. His aura was overwhelming and he was definitely a king. The Turing Empire's Xiaoming monarch was rumored to be one of the top experts in the Turing Empire. His name had shaken the empire for close to 100 years. He was also once a student of Tianwu Academy. Within Tianwu Academy, the students were shocked and trembled in excitement. Who would have thought that so many king-level experts would arrive in such a short period of time? All of them were influential figures, and all of them were legendary figures. All of them had one thing in common, and that was that they had all graduated from Tianwu Academy. The Central Continent's Dai Clan's lightning racing monarch has arrived to protect our Tianwu Academy. Another person shouted as he followed closely behind Xiaoming monarch. The Central Continent's He Clan's soul-splitting monarch has arrived. Those who offend our Tianwu Academy will pay with their blood. The Bright Sun Empire's king has arrived. Who dares to offend our Tianwu Academy? The Central Continent's Daybreak Sect's Nightstar Monarch has arrived to protect our Tianwu Academy. Within a short period of time, thunderous roars resounded from the dark forest outside Tianwu Academy. One after another, King Realm experts arrived. Xiaoming Monarch, Lightning Racing Monarch, Soul-Splitting Monarch, Nightstar Monarch, and the other experts had all graduated from Tianwu Academy. They were experts who had made a name for themselves for dozens of years or even hundreds of years. They were already the kings of their respective countries, and their names spread far and wide. However, these King Realm experts had all returned. Upon receiving news of the calamity that had befallen the Academy, they rushed over without any hesitation to provide reinforcements. They're back, they're back, they're back. As more and more King Realm experts arrived to provide reinforcements, loud roars sounded from all directions. Many elders of Tianwu Academy were moved to tears. The experts of our Tianwu Academy have returned to protect our academy. Kill. Those who offend our Tianwu Academy will pay with their blood. Within Tianwu Academy, all of the students felt their blood boiling. Their bodies trembled in excitement as they fought with all their might. At this moment, a storm was brewing in Tianwu Academy. Experts had returned from all directions to protect the academy. Summon all readers, summon fresh flowers, and assist in the battle for the fresh flower list. Chapter 525. When the members of Tianwu Academy saw the experts who had left the academy returning one after another, and the kings who had traveled all the way here to reinforce Tianwu Academy, they couldn't help but feel their blood boiling. In an instant, their fighting spirit surged, and their fighting prowess soared. The leaders of the Dark Nether sect did not expect so many kings to come to Tianwu Academy's rescue. Therefore, the experts from the Dark Nether sect were unable to gain any advantage over the Tianwu Academy. The South Vanquishing Prince, Ouyang Qi, is here. Kill. A majestic old man with a resolute face appeared. One could tell that he must have been handsome and elegant when he was young. At this moment, he stepped into the air and attacked rapidly. Talismans and mysterious inscriptions appeared in his hands and killed the Dark Nether sect's members as easily as breaking twigs. The East Vanquishing Prince, Jinghua, is here. Those who touch my Tianwu Academy will pay with their blood. A majestic figure appeared in the air. His aura was so imposing that it could suppress mountains and rivers. His appearance was somewhat similar to the omniscient mountain and river general. When the palm print in his hand landed, the talismans soared into the sky and suppressed mountains and rivers. A large number of Dark Nether sect's members were turned into a bloody mist. Kill. The Medicine King, Yi Wuming, made his move. With a wave of his hand, several puppets that looked like they were made of metal flew out and charged into the Dark Nether sect's ranks. These were the puppets that the Medicine King had researched during this period of time. Although they were not at the king grade, they were strong enough to kill ordinary martial marquises. Destroy. The Eagle King's Gong Saber attacked while standing beside Du Xiaofu. Claw Prince swept through the air and tore the Dark Nether sect's members into pieces. Bang! 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 As the kings of Tianwu Academy returned, many of the Dark Nether sect's members were killed. Stop those kings. Quick! The old man who led the Dark Nether sect's group, who was fighting with Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang, shouted. He ordered the Dark Nether sect's king grade experts to stop the kings of Tianwu Academy's reinforcements. Even king grade experts can't save Tianwu Academy. The king grade experts of Dark Nether sect immediately gave up on killing the elders and students and charged toward the king grade experts who were coming to save Tianwu Academy. Protect Tianwu Academy with your life. The Lightning Racing King roared. The rune energy beam in his hand shot out like a thunderbolt, destroying everything in its path. It smashed towards the experts of the Dark Nether sect. A King Realm expert of the Dark Nether sect was blasted into a mist of blood. The lightning racing king had killed a king realm expert with just one strike. His might was unparalleled. The surrounding Dark Nether sect's members were frightened and fled in all directions. Bastard! Lightning Racing King, does the Dai family of the Central Plains also want to get involved? Shouted a gloomy old man wearing a mask. He was definitely not an ordinary king warrior. He tried to stop the Lightning Racing King. So it's the bastard from the Dark Nether sect who dared to touch my Tianwu Academy. When the experts of my Tianwu Academy return in the future, I'll definitely raise your Dark Nether sect to the ground. Lightning Racing King roared fearlessly. As a student of Tianwu Academy, he had the temperament of Tianwu Academy. Fearless and fearless, he attacked the old man. Streaks of terrifying energy swept across the sky. Kill! In just a short time, the ancient land was covered in blood. Killing intent soared into the sky. Eyes turned red from killing and blood flowed like a river. Du Xiaofu stared at the sky, his heart trembling. The experts who had left Tianwu Academy in the past had not forgotten about the academy. When the academy was in trouble, they had come all the way here to help. They were also a part of Tianwu Academy. However, although Du Xiaofu was trembling in fear, he still looked solemn. The experts who had come to help Tianwu Academy were all martial kings. Although they were king realm experts, there were obviously a few terrifying opponents who were beyond the martial king realm in the Dark Nether sect. Those opponents seemed to be at the martial royal realm. At this moment, only those terrifying martial royal realm experts could determine the outcome of the battle. Bang! Bang! Above the battlefield in the sky, there were violent muffled sounds of energy. Then, the first elder of Tianwu Academy's inner yard was sent flying away. He spat out a mouthful of blood. At this moment, the talisman patterns on the white crane meridian soul that the great elder had already activated were also scattered, turning into fragments. You are a half-martial royal after all. You are no match for me. A skinny masked man with a sharp aura shouted coldly. Then, a palm print landed on the first elder's body like a bolt of lightning. Pfft! The great elder's aged body directly fell from the sky, smashing into the ground like a meteor. The ground trembled, as if the mountains were collapsing and the earth was cracking. Countless pieces of rubble shot out. First elder. Du Xiaofu's face changed drastically. His injured figure immediately dashed down and arrived beside the first elder, who was drenched in blood. His face was as pale as ash, and his aura was extremely weak. Lad, I am very comforted by your return. However, you shouldn't have disobeyed me. You shouldn't have returned. Promise me that you will leave this place quickly and leave behind the legacy of Tianwu Academy. One day, when you are strong enough, you will make the academy pay with their blood for everything that happened today. The first elder stared at Du Xiaofu as he spoke intermittently. When he spat out a mouthful of blood, his gaze on Du Xiaofu dissipated. He closed his eyes and his vitality dissipated. First elder. Many of the academy's elders and students cried out in grief when they saw that the first elder had fallen. Their hearts trembled, and some of them even had tears rolling down their cheeks. Du Xiaofu didn't shout. Instead, he looked at the old man who had guarded Tianwu Academy for his entire life and felt an urge to cry. Tears welled up in his eyes uncontrollably, threatening to spill out. First elder, please rest in peace. Du Xiaofu gently placed the first elder's corpse in the pit filled with gravel. With a sweep of his hand, a pile of gravel buried the corpse. After which, Du Xiaofu's gaze landed on the skinny masked man who had just killed the first elder. A cold glint flashed across his eyes. Tianwu Academy was his second home. To Du Xiaofu, Tianwu Academy had a strong sense of belonging. The members of Tianwu Academy were his family, and the first elder was his elder. Du Xiaofu could still vaguely remember that when he was unconscious, the first elder had helped him heal his injuries and fed him some medicinal pills. Those eyes that had been filled with worry for him were now closed, and it would be difficult for them to open again. Walala! Mysterious golden talisman patterns erupted from Du Xiaofu's body, which was riddled with scars. The deep saber wound on his back also gradually recovered. A tyrannical and intimidating aura suddenly erupted like a suppressed volcano. Wang! Activating the tyrant shadow in his hand, the broken wings of runes on his back spread out once more under the golden radiance. Spreading his wings, he soared into the sky and pointed his sword at the skinny masked man. Kill! Du Xiaofu made his move. Activating the tyrant shadow, a golden radiance shone and runes flowed around it. The seemingly simple slash was accompanied by the rumbling of wind and thunder. The sword gleam extended toward the skinny masked man with the speed of lightning. Xiao! This slash seemed to possess the might to move mountains and overturn seas. It was sufficient to cause the mountains to crumble and the earth to shatter, destroying everything in its path. What a formidable Dao artifact! It's a pity that it landed in the hands of a brat who overestimates himself. The skinny masked man sneered with disdain in his eyes. He waved his hand and a large amount of bloody and cold rune energy blocked the sword gleam like a shield. Walala! No matter how tyrannical and terrifying the sword radiance was, it was enough to make a martial king initial stage cultivator retreat. However, at this moment, it was unable to shake the runic shield at all. Boom! Seeing that he was unable to shake the rune shield of his opponent, Du Xiaofu's eyes surged with a golden light. The rune wings on his back erupted with dazzling runes, like a rising sun. An overbearing and fierce aura suddenly intensified as it swept out. Majestic light filled the air, like a great rock spreading its wings and soaring into the 9 heavens. Qi La! Above the sword gleam, a mighty pressure intensified, channeling the energy of heaven and earth. It actually pierced the rune shield and caused it to fluctuate. It's not ordinary. The skinny masked man was surprised and then sneered. At the same time, he waved his hand and a terrifying devouring force erupted from the rune light shield. It directly devoured and destroyed the sword gleam. Boom! Then, the former's figure strangely appeared in front of Du Xiaofu and a palm print suddenly smashed into Du Xiaofu's chest. Mysterious Soul Eye. Just as the terrifying palm print landed on Du Xiaofu's chest under many worried gazes, a strange rune suddenly spread out from Du Xiaofu's eyes. Qi. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's eyes seemed to be filled with endless light. The rune light overlapped and finally enveloped the former's body like a ray of light. Qi la la. Under the terrifying palm print, Du Xiaofu's body was directly blasted down. However, at the same time, the tyrant shadow in his hand turned into a sword whip. Like an azure gold lightning, it pierced towards the skinny masked man's chest in the instant the latter was stunned. In this short moment, the skinny masked man seemed to have suddenly felt something. His gaze changed a lot and was faintly sluggish. However, it was only for a short moment before he recovered. The skinny masked man immediately retreated and avoided his chest. However, the azure gold sword whip wrapped around his shoulder and destroyed the cold Xian Qi defense that had been affected by the sluggishness just now. The black robe on his shoulder was torn and a faint trace of blood was left on his shoulder. Although this sword strike was harmless to the skinny masked man, the power of the sword light had been secretly resisted, and he didn't suffer too much damage. However, Du Xiaofu still managed to leave a sword strike on him. Rumble! Du Xiaofu fiercely smashed into the messy square. He spat out a large mouthful of blood and his entire body seemed to have fallen apart. Even his chest and ribs seemed to have fallen apart. A huge force swept out and his internal organs were shaken. He was simply unable to contend against his opponent. Chapter 526. That was the legendary martial royal realm expert. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation level, he was still far from being able to contend against a martial royal realm expert. What a fierce boy! As Du Xiaofu made his move, East vanquishing king, South vanquishing king, Lightning Racing King, Broken Soul King, and the others all saw how fierce Du Xiaofu was. Although he was defeated by a martial royal realm expert without any suspense, not only did he survive a palm strike from a martial royal realm expert, but he was also able to make a martial royal realm expert look embarrassed. This was definitely not simple. A normal martial king realm expert could not even think about getting close to a martial royal realm expert, let alone a martial lord realm expert. Moreover, if a normal martial king realm expert was hit by a palm strike from a martial royal realm expert, he would most likely turn into a bloody mist. However, the purple-robed youth was still vigorous. That kind of defensive power was enough to be abnormal. Pfft, Du Xiaofu spat out blood again. Then, he took out a lot of pills and directly stuffed them into his bloody mouth and swallowed them. Bastard! The skinny masked man was enraged. A mere martial marquis had put him in a difficult position, and his palm was actually unable to kill that brat. How could he let him go? Furthermore, he had to obtain that precious Dao artifact. Immediately, his figure pounced down like lightning. "Brother, be careful," Du Xiaoqing shouted. She had been surrounded and attacked by 3 extraordinary martial kings and could not escape. Seeing that her brother was seriously injured and in danger, her beautiful face turned pale. At this moment, the sky was completely covered by the curtain of night, but the dazzling runes illuminated the surroundings as if it was daytime. Pfft! The thin masked man appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. The mighty energy crushed Du Xiaofu, and a palm strike fiercely hit Du Xiaofu. "Boy, be careful." Elder Zhou's aged figure appeared in front of Du Xiaofu as the aged voice rang out. A palm print immediately shot out towards Du Xiaofu. Boom! A low-energy muffled sound, and dazzling runes shattered and shone in this part of the world. A large area of the ground cracked, and Elder Zhou's figure also staggered back a few steps. "You can't even save yourself, and you still want to save others?" A cold shout rang out. In this short moment, the opponent that had been fiercely fighting with Elder Zhou appeared like a ghost. A palm struck Elder Zhou's back like a bolt of lightning, sending Elder Zhou's old body flying. Blood immediately spurted from his mouth. Pfft! Elder Zhou's, with the impact of the heavens and earth, the mountain, and the mountains, the mountain, and the mountain. The impact of the impact, Kiki, it. 2. The martial is in. Is nis tin tu 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 tus ni tu 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 tus 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 tu ninin there is nn, brat, you must escape alive. You still owe me pills, and your father also owes me pills. When the time comes, you must return them to Tianwu Academy. You must leave behind a legacy for Tianwu Academy. Elder Zhou struggled to get up. He turned his head to look at Du Xiaofu, who was covered in blood and whose body had fallen apart. A slight smile appeared on his old face. Then, he took a step forward and immediately pounced toward the 2 martial emperor stage dark nether sex experts, who were closing in on him. A cruel smile appeared on his face, and it sent chills down the spines of those who saw it. "Elder Zhou," Du Xiaofu shouted. When he saw Elder Zhou's final smile, Du Xiaofu felt uneasy. Du Xiaofu felt that Elder Zhou's smile contained a magnanimous attitude toward death. Not good, this guy wants to fight with his life on the line. Suddenly, the 2 martial emperor staged dark nether sex experts, who were closing in on him, seemed to have sensed something. They immediately retreated as if they had seen a ghost. "You dare to offend my Tianwu Academy? Even if I die, I'll make you pay the price." As soon as Elder Zhou finished shouting, his body suddenly swelled up. Dazzling talisman scripts wrapped around him. Then, the talisman scripts on his body condensed into a spiritual furnace and talisman cauldron. His body merged with the spiritual furnace and talisman cauldron, drawing in the energy of heaven and earth. It was as if the sun and stars had descended. At this moment, the aura on Elder Zhou's body was even stronger than when he was at his peak. His figure quickly appeared beside the 2 martial marquis staged dark nether sex experts who were about to retreat. In just a short instant, Elder Zhou's spiritual furnace and talisman cauldron exploded like a bomb along with his body. At this moment, the two martial emperor's stage experts from Dark Nether sect felt their hair stand on end. Rumble. An earth-shattering explosion resounded in the night sky of this ancient world that was in a mess. In an instant, destructive energy burst forth, causing ripples to appear in a large area of the void. The entire plaza outside the Tianwu talisman boundary was destroyed. Huge rocks exploded, and countless cracks appeared on the ground. Whoosh! Dazzling symbol runes blossomed along with blazing flames, like a rising sun in the night sky. Terrifying waves of blazing flames swept across the sky like waves, sweeping across the land, causing the temperature of the land to suddenly rise to a terrifying level. How terrifying! What's going on in there? In the dark forest outside Tianwu Academy, more and more figures looked at the distant sky. The terrifying temperature and vast power caused people to tremble in fear even though they were far away. They were drenched in sweat and their faces were pale. Fear spread from the depths of their souls. In Tianwu Academy, both parties that were engaged in an intense battle began to back away from the battlefield. Gulp! That terrifying pressure and energy burst forth in the vicinity of the crowd, causing many people's mouths and tongues to dry up as they swallowed their saliva and shivered all over. In a short period of time, a large area of land and many mountains in the vicinity were razed to the ground. Elder Zhou had done this intentionally. Many Dark Nether sect's disciples were affected and were killed on the spot. In the dazzling night sky, the waves of fire talisman scripts turned into ripples and spread out. They spread into the distance before gradually dissipating. Two figures were sent flying and landed on two nearby mountains. Bang! Bang! Two figures fell from the sky like two bombs. At the same time, they smashed the mountain peak into pieces, causing huge rocks to roll down and the earth to shake. They were the two martial monarchs from the Dark Nether sect. Puff! 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 The two martial monarchs from Dark Nether sect rushed out of the collapsed mountain in a wretched state. Their bodies were drenched in blood and blood was spurting out from their mouths. Under the violent impact, many bloody wounds appeared on their bodies. Dark red blood seeped out from their black robes. Even their bones could be seen. The masks on their faces were cracked and blood was seeping out from them. Damn that spiritual cauldron explosion. The two Dark Nether sect's martial king stage powerhouses no longer had their original gloominess. Their eyes were filled with shock as they had just escaped death. Fear still lingered in their hearts from their miserable appearances. If they were half a step slower, they would have been killed on the spot. However, even if the two of them managed to keep their lives, they were still severely injured. It would take them at least 5 to 10 years to recover from their injuries. Elder Zhou. The surrounding Tianwu Academy elders and many students cried out in grief. Elder Zhou had turned into ashes and died on the spot. Du Xiaofu's figure was buried under the rubble in the square. He struggled to crawl out and used the tyrant's shadow to support his body. His body was drenched in blood as he looked at the gradually dissipating fire in the sky. At this moment, his pale golden eyes were bloodshot. In order to save his life, Elder Zhou's soul was destroyed in the end. The spiritual cauldron explosion had caused his death. How tragic was that? Elder Zhou. Du Xiaofu raised his head and roared. His voice was filled with grief. It was heart-wrenching. His voice soared into the sky like thunder, causing the hearts of those who heard it to bleed. Brother! Upon hearing her brother's heart-wrenching cry, Du Xiaoqing, who was being held back by 3 extraordinary martial monarchs, cried out. Something seemed to have awakened in her pure eyes. A crimson light began to spread out like a dancing flame. Waves of terrifying crimson light instantly spread out from her body. Whoosh! 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 Du Xiaoqing seemed to have received some kind of intense stimulation. The crimson light began to cover her delicate body like a cocoon. It grew larger and larger. The speed at which the crimson light cocoon covered was extremely fast. In just a few blinks of an eye, it had completely covered the surrounding space. A terrifying energy fluctuation accompanied by a terrifying pressure also spread out. What's going on? Upon seeing Du Xiaoqing's transformation, the expressions of the three extraordinary martial monarchs from Dark Nether sect changed drastically as well. The terrifying pressure caused them to feel uneasy for no reason. In just a short period of time, the crimson light cocoon that covered Du Xiaoqing's body began to emit dazzling talisman inscriptions. They were like countless threads of energy. The energy fluctuation became more and more terrifying. It was as though a volcano was about to erupt. Beep. A sharp beep that pierced one's soul could be vaguely heard from the crimson light cocoon. After that, the talisman inscriptions exploded. In just a blink of an eye, the crimson light cocoon that was growing larger and larger shattered. Following that, a gigantic crimson light bird that was only a few hundred feet in size flapped its wings and appeared. A terrifying aura immediately descended upon the ancient world. The gigantic crimson bird was shaped like a crane. It only had one leg. It had crimson inscriptions on its body and a white beak. Its entire body was covered in crimson stripes and beautiful crimson feathers. It looked like a phoenix, a crane, and a phoenix. The domineering aura around it was accompanied by a blazing aura that caused the air in the surrounding space to evaporate into white smoke. Roar! As the gigantic crimson bird appeared, the little tiger in the distance also roared. Its eyes were filled with awe. What kind of demonic beast is that? Why is its pressure so peerless? At this moment, countless pairs of eyes in the sky trembled. Under the pressure of the gigantic crimson bird that looked like a phoenix, a crane, and a phoenix, everyone's pulse souls could not help but tremble. This caused the people who were fighting with their pulse souls to be affected the most. Those who were weaker were directly crushed to the point of prostrating themselves on the ground. Die! Du Xiaoqing's delicate voice rang out from the gigantic crimson bird's white beak. After that, it opened its mouth. Billowing flames accompanied by monstrous talisman inscriptions shot out like a volcano. I'm continuing to write. It's the last 2 days of this month. I'm begging for fresh flowers. Brothers, give me all your fresh flowers. Don't waste them when the time comes. Does anyone know what little Qing's true form is now? Chapter 527. Raging flames erupted. The temperature of the flames was so high that it caused people to crawl in pain and their souls to wither. In just a blink of an eye, the raging flames enveloped the three extraordinary martial kings from Dark Nether sect in a peculiar manner and speed. Oh no! The three extraordinary martial kings from Dark Nether sect who were besieging Du Xiaoqing felt the high temperature of the flames. Even their souls were trembling. It was too late for them to escape. The surrounding space was engulfed in raging flames as though it had turned into a sea of fire. Whoosh! Whoosh! The three extraordinary martial kings from Dark Nether sect attacked with all their might. Talisman runes erupted and a chilly aura soared into the sky. However, it was destroyed by the talisman runes in the raging flames. The terrifying flame exploded, burning the space and everything in its path. The three extraordinary martial kings from the Dark Nether sect were no longer able to withstand it. Vice sect leader, Grand Elder, save us! Save us! The eyes of the three extraordinary Dark Nether sect's martial king realm experts under their masks were filled with fear. They loudly cried for help from Old Man Een Nether and the cold-looking old man. However, Old Man Een Ming and the cold-looking old man were also blocked by Yu Yu's Supreme Elder and Zhuge Qiangbang. Although they had the upper hand, it was difficult for them to escape. Een Ming, don't even think about saving them. Yu Yu's Supreme Elder shouted. A terrifying energy erupted from his shriveled body and trapped Old Man Een Ming. Yu Yu, I'm not going to play with you today. Tianwu Academy is responsible for my second brother's death in the Dark Forest. Today, I'll destroy Tianwu Academy. Old man Yin Ming shouted coldly. Back then, his second brother had come to the dark forest to test Tianwu Academy's strength with the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine. He did not expect that he would die in the dark forest. Waves of attacks swept toward Yu Supreme Elder. The three martial kings from Dark Nether sect were trapped and could not escape to save them. However, old man Yin Ming did not seem to care at all. Yin Ming, I have forgotten that your second brother is that little Yin Ming, right? The two of you have committed many evil deeds. Unfortunately, your second brother was not strong enough and was killed by Grandma Silver Flower. He deserved it. Supreme Elder Qing Yu shouted coldly, trying to provoke old man Yin Ming. He wanted to find an opportunity to suppress old man Yin Ming, but it was difficult to do so. Instead, he was suppressed by old man Yin Ming. To think that there would be a legendary existence in Tianwu Academy, the divine bird by Fang. My horizons have been broadened today. At this moment, a terrifying aura came from the distant night sky. In an instant, the night sky was shrouded in scarlet, as if a sea of blood was spreading out. Suddenly, a terrifying aura descended, making people feel as if their blood was boiling, as if it was being sucked away by something terrifying. That terrifying aura was so strong that it was terrifying to the extreme. That was the aura of a super expert. As the sea of blood spread out, there seemed to be a pair of blood-red eyes within the sea of blood. It was as if a red star had appeared within the sea of blood, looking down on the world. It was incomparably terrifying. Welcome, Sect Master. As the sea of blood spread out in the night sky, a huge pair of blood-red eyes looked down on the world. Someone from the Dark Nether sect greeted respectfully. Shui Yao, so you're the Sect Master of the Dark Nether sect. High up in the sky, Supreme Elder Qing Yu looked at the sea of blood in the sky with trembling eyes. Many of the seniors in Tianwu Academy looked at the churning sea of blood in the sky, and they were shocked by it. Blood Demon had always been the #1 existence on Tianwu Academy's bounty board. Over the years, the names on the bounty board had been removed and changed constantly. However, Blood Demon remained at the top of the board. It had been 100 years or even longer, but there had been no changes to his ranking. Divine Bird by Fang, it seems like you have gained a lot today. The sea of blood surged and covered the sky. There were talismans and mysterious inscriptions in the sea of blood. In the end, it turned into a huge blood-red claw that distorted space and grabbed at the green-red giant bird below. Shui Yao, it has been so many years. You're still not dead? It was also at this moment that an elderly and gentle voice was suddenly emitted from the vast sky. An energy handprint penetrated through space and arrived from the distant sky at the same time. It caused the entire high ground to appear to have solidified in an instant. After which, it directly collided with the blood-colored claw. The collision of energy caused the surrounding space to distort. It was visible to the naked eye, and it actually caused a large area of space to crack and shatter. Crackle. Everything was destroyed easily. In the end, the blood-red claw and the energy palm turned into dazzling talisman symbols that filled the sky and slowly dissipated. Within the blood sea, the intimidating pair of eyes that resembled blood-colored stars stared into the distance. A sharp and bloody voice sounded, "Grandma Silver Flower, you're still alive. This isn't the dark forest. This is a matter of Tianwu Academy. Don't overstep your boundaries. Tianwu Academy is also in the dark forest. Such a huge commotion will affect the dark forest. Retreat. Otherwise, I will definitely interfere." As the old and gentle voice sounded again, the sky in front of them silently changed color. At this moment, it was as though a bright moon had suddenly descended in the night sky. Its brilliance scattered across this ancient land. Boom! Then, a dazzling ball of light floated in the sky like a bright moon. A terrifying aura overflowed from the ball of light, causing all the ferocious beasts in the area to go into hibernation. Some people trembled violently and space froze. It's Grandma Silver Flower. She's here to help Tianwu Academy. Outside Tianwu Academy, many eyes were filled with astonishment. High up in the night sky, there was a luminous moonlight floating. An elderly figure could be faintly seen within the luminous moonlight. It was the guardian of the dark forest, Grandma Silver Flower. Grandma Silver Flower, if you want to interfere, let's see if you have the strength to do so. Huge waves rose from the sea of blood and swept across the sky. A terrifying aura spread across the sky as though it wanted to devour the entire world. This is not the place for you, blood demon, to do evil. The old and gentle voice sounded from within the bright moonlight. The bright moonlight was dazzling and resplendent. Its pressure spread out and layers of bright moonlight erupted, resisting the huge waves of the sea of blood. Waves of terrifying pressure wreaked havoc within the sea of blood. Resplendent runes spread across the sky, causing the hearts of the surrounding living beings to tremble and their souls to tremble. Rumble, when the two energies collided, it instantly caused the space to distort to the point of collapse. The sea of blood rippled and whistled as the bright moonlight descended and illuminated the surroundings. Du Xiaofu supported his body with the tyrant shadow in his hand as he looked at the sky. His eyes were scarlet red as he circulated the golden rocks cultivation technique and refined the medicinal pills to recover his energy. The golden talisman runes on the surface of his body flickered and gradually healed the wounds on his body. Sect Master, Vice Sect Master, Grand Elder, save me. Ah, not far away in the sky, the blood-red claw did not have the time to interfere in the sea of flames. This caused the three dark nether sects Martial King Realm cultivators in the sea of flames to be unable to withstand the terrifying heat. The three Martial King Realm cultivators who were originally besieging Du Shaoqing had their defenses completely destroyed by the flames. The three of them activated their meridian souls to resist the pressure, but it was of no use. Their meridian souls were afraid of the pressure. After that, their bodies were enveloped by the flames and were directly swallowed into the huge green-red bird's mouth. Rumble, the monstrous flames dissipated and the high temperature gradually disappeared. The three extraordinary Martial King Realm cultivators had completely disappeared. Chi! In the depths of the night, a thunderbolt suddenly streaked across the sky. A wave of endless destructive aura rose in many people's hearts. Du Xiaofu raised his head and looked at the sky. When the thunderbolt arrived, it caused something in his body to fluctuate for no reason. It was a familiar feeling. The thunderbolt was getting closer and closer. People could see that it was a figure with lightning radiance around his body. The radiance around his entire body was like a miniature lightning ball. The surrounding lightning radiance flickered like silver snakes and enveloped his entire body, causing people to be unable to see his appearance clearly. The figure was accompanied by a terrifying destructive and domineering pressure. After that, as if there was no one around, he instantly swept to the sky above the heavenly martial talisman realm square that was in a mess and looked like ruins. Boom! After that, the thunderbolt figure swept into the ancient stone door of the heavenly martial talisman realm that was currently closed. After that, the figure strangely disappeared. At this moment, Du Xiaofu could feel that the entire space and earth trembled slightly. After that, everything returned to normal. Everyone saw that the strange figure wrapped in lightning had disappeared into the heavenly martial talisman realm. They were extremely surprised and a little stunned. However, no one knew what had happened. Someone has interfered. Let's end this quickly. Shui Yao's sharp and bloody words suddenly rolled out from the sea of blood. Kill! Immediately, the people from Dark Nether sect attacked even more fiercely. That brat is strange. Let's kill him first. The two Dark Nether sect's martial monarchs were severely injured by the explosion of Zhou Courtyard's old spiritual cauldron. However, they had not completely lost their strength. Their eyes were fixed on Du Xiaofu and the tyrant shadow in Du Xiaofu's hand. The two of them looked at each other. Their battered bodies were riddled with scars. Their gazes and auras slowly locked onto Du Xiaofu. Brother. Du Xiaoqing's gigantic green-red bird hovered above Du Xiaofu. It stared at the two severely injured Dark Nether Sect's martial monarchs. Its blazing aura erupted as it tried to protect Du Xiaofu. The Beast King Realm's Nirvana Realm. This is the legendary Baifeng Divine Bird. If we can obtain the secret Bone Beast energy, it'll be even more powerful than that Dao weapon. Does everyone want to see the sexy and seductive Li Shui of Tianwu Academy? You can add Little Yu's WeChat account, Yufeng YF, and send Li Shui to see it. It's the last day of the month. In tomorrow's chapter, our pig trotter Du Xiaofu has been hiding some of his ultimate moves. It's time for him to go on a killing spree. Chapter 528. The Dark Nether Sect's martial royal realm expert on the left, who was originally fighting Elder Zhou, said to the person on the right, "I'll deal with the Baifeng Divine Bird. You deal with the kid. Let's end this quickly." Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately pounced on Du Xiaoqing. At this moment, the Baifeng Divine Bird threw a punch out, causing the space to tremble. Its fist was surrounded by cold and sharp talisman inscriptions. Dazzling talisman inscriptions burst out, and its terrifying aura caused people's souls to tremble. In an instant, it enveloped Du Xiaoqing. "Brother, be careful." Du Xiaoqing flapped her wings. The wings on her back that looked like a rock, a phoenix, and a wand flapped fiercely. Scorching heat accompanied by a strong wind blew, causing sand and stones to fly. A terrifying flaming vortex appeared and swept forward rapidly. Walala, wherever the flaming vortex passed, it could destroy everything. The surrounding space was distorted, and the ground below was crushed into dust. It also blocked the former's punch. So powerful. Du Xiaoqing's attack caused the former's expression to change drastically. He did not dare to take it head-on and quickly retreated. The terrifying flaming vortex was like a high-temperature hurricane that could destroy everything. Dark Nether Seal. Immediately after, the former shouted and formed a seal with his hands. The talisman inscriptions erupted, and a cold aura filled the sky as it continuously attacked the flaming vortex. Rumble. The two forces collided, causing a large area of the mountain to collapse. Huge rocks rolled down, and dust flew everywhere. It was a terrifying scene. Du Xiaoqing could kill 3 extraordinary martial king realm experts. However, although her opponent was a severely injured martial royal realm expert, he was still not someone a martial king realm expert could easily compare to. Therefore, she could not do anything at the moment. However, the martial royal realm expert was severely injured and could not do anything to Du Xiaoqing. "Kid, it's over." In a short instant, almost as soon as the former attacked, the remaining severely injured martial royal realm expert pounced on Du Xiaofu like a ghost. A claw fell from the sky, and the talisman inscriptions distorted the space. Its aura was terrifying. Qi, the Eagle King's gong saber hurriedly cut through the air and collided with a claw, protecting Du Xiaofu. The two claws collided with each other. The Eagle King's gong saber's claws were destroyed right away, and the defense on his right hand was destroyed. Blood gushed out, and his flesh and blood splattered everywhere, revealing his white bones. His body was sent flying, unable to withstand the attack of a martial emperor. "Brat, no one can save you." The former sneered and arrived before Du Xiaofu in an unobstructed manner, and then he clawed down once more, causing space to distort as he intended to crush Du Xiaofu into a bloody mist. "Kid, run." The lightning racing king appeared like a shadow. He wanted to protect Du Xiaofu, this extraordinary young man of the Tianwu Academy, and leave behind the inheritance for the Tianwu Academy. He punched out, wrapped in talisman, with a force as fast as thunder. It collided with the claw of the martial royal realm expert. Bang! A low muffled sound rang out as the collision caused the space to resound with resounding clangs. Energy erupted as large amounts of runes were shattered. Crack, crack, however, the layer of armor on the lightning racing king's body cracked. He spat out blood and was sent flying. The lightning racing king was also unable to withstand the attack of a martial royal realm expert, but he was in a much better condition than the eagle king's gong saber. At this moment, Du Xiaofu, who was using the dominating shadow to support his body, suddenly raised his head. His body was glowing with golden brilliance as he refined a large amount of energy from the elixirs in his body. His body, which was riddled with wounds and dripping with blood, was completely healed by the flickering light of the light golden talisman engravings. Then, the dominating shadow in his hands suddenly returned to his body. Crack, 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 Du Xiaofu put down the purple cloth wrapped around the broadsword-like object that he had been carrying on his back. The tip of the sword fell on the ground. Suddenly, cracks spread across the messy ground, as if the ground was collapsing and trembling. The martial royal realm cultivator, who had just sent the lightning racing king flying, suddenly felt this aura. He immediately looked at Du Xiaofu in surprise and stopped moving. At this moment, Du Xiaofu held the sword hilt wrapped in a purple cloth with one hand and clenched his fist with the other. His eyes were bloodshot as he leaped into the air. Golden light burst out from his back and an overbearing aura soared into the sky. A pile of golden talisman engravings flapped as Du Xiaofu rose into the air. He held the strange broadsword wrapped in a purple cloth tightly and began to infuse his qi into it. Boom! Just as Du Xiaofu infused his qi into the broadsword, the entire space suddenly trembled violently. Cracks appeared on the messy ground below. Buzz, buzz. In Du Xiaofu's hand, the broadsword wrapped in a purple cloth began to emit light. It was like a divine light spreading out from the talisman engravings. The light became more and more dazzling. Faint cries of dragons, tigers, birds, and turtles resounded in this part of the world. Howl, howl, the cries of dragons, tigers, birds, and turtles became louder and louder, shaking people's souls. Accompanied by the sound of wind and thunder, there were cries of ghosts and gods gushing out from the void. Boom! The purple gold heavenly tower appeared, emitting a dazzling light. It formed a purple and gold spatial vortex, causing the world to shake. Whoosh, 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 within the purple gold heavenly tower, a terrifying demonic aura rippled crazily, swallowing the surrounding energy of heaven and earth. Under this crazy absorption, the surrounding people also felt that the qi in their bodies was about to be swallowed by the purple and gold vortex. Those cultivators with lower strength directly prostrated themselves on the ground. Within the energy vortex, the demonic aura swept out like a hurricane. The extremely terrifying demonic aura seemed to have come from the 9 serenities, from the realm of demons. The demonic aura rushed to heaven and earth, causing the sky to collapse. Humph! At this moment, Du Xiaofu also let out a painful groan. The demonic aura from the 9 serenities, from the realm of demons, was like the gate of a reservoir that had been opened. It could not be stopped, surging and pouring out in torrents for thousands of miles, causing Du Xiaofu's soul to almost shatter. Under the terrifying demonic aura, Du Xiaofu's body was about to collapse inch by inch. If it were an ordinary martial marquis, he would have been turned into a bloody mist. Even the body of an ordinary martial king would not be able to withstand it and would be shattered into pieces by the terrifying demonic aura. The revered weapon had already instructed him not to use the purple gold heavenly palace. Otherwise, he would not be able to control it. But now, Tianwu Academy was facing a calamity. Elder Zhou, the first elder, and countless seniors and juniors who were still alive had died in front of his eyes. This caused Du Xiaofu to be in so much pain that he wished he was dead. The purple gold heavenly palace was activated, wanting to protect the academy. Sizzle. Under the terrifying fiendish aura, Du Xiaofu's body surface faintly emitted countless fiendish auras. It was as if his body was about to explode at any time. The pain caused his face to contort in a ferocious manner. This was definitely not something an ordinary person could withstand. But Du Xiaofu managed to withstand it. He gritted his teeth and circulated the golden rock technique in his body. The rock descends to the 9 heavens was activated, suppressing the demonic aura. His mind communicated with the new artifact spirit in the purple gold heavenly palace, wanting to control it. Quickly kill that brat. Quick, that brat is strange. Finally, old man Yin Ming, who was fighting with the Grand Elder of Qingyu Island, could not bear it anymore. That terrifying divine weapon made him feel uneasy. Chapter 529. The martial emperor regained his senses after hearing old man Yin Ming's shout. Upon seeing the situation, he immediately made his move. Profound qi surged and swept towards Du Xiaofu. Kill! The martial emperor's huge palm pressed down, causing the air to tremble. The cold talisman runes soared into the sky, intending to kill Du Xiaofu with all his might. That terrifying attack instantly reached Du Xiaofu. This was definitely an all-out attack from the severely injured martial emperor. He wanted to kill Du Xiaofu directly. Otherwise, there would be endless trouble in the future. The aura of the peerless divine weapon was too terrifying. Under many shocked and worried gazes, the terrifying attack reached Du Xiaofu. Those who offend my Tianwu Academy will be killed without mercy. At this moment, Du Xiaofu suddenly raised his head. In his blood-red eyes, a torrential baleful aura swept across the sky. The peerless divine weapon in his hand slashed towards the martial emperor. Boom! The sword gleam appeared and drew a thunderous purple-gold arc in the air. It was like a purple-gold lightning bolt that instantly appeared on the martial emperor's huge cold energy palm. The baleful aura swept out like a hurricane. The light was dazzling and contained the might of dragons and tigers. It was so dazzling that no one could look directly at it. Boom! The two energies collided fiercely, causing the entire area to rumble. The entire space trembled as if it was going to overturn the heavens. The dazzling light spread out like a hurricane. Qi La. Many people narrowed their eyes and saw the terrifying sword gleam passing by. The martial emperor's cold energy palm only managed to block it for a moment before it was destroyed. Woo woo. The sword qi didn't disperse. It was ferocious. Ghosts were crying and gods were howling. It destroyed everything. A terrifying scene appeared in the sky. Visible cracks appeared in the space. Then, they fell on the body of the Huang Qi layer who had been severely injured. Qi La La. When the sword gleam landed, the martial emperor couldn't block it at all. His body was slashed into pieces by the sword gleam, turning into a mist of blood that drifted in the air. A martial emperor was killed with a single sword. Such terrifying power made everyone's hair stand on end and their hairs stand on end. Goo goo. Countless gazes looked at the terrifying scene in the sky, and the sound of saliva being swallowed involuntarily appeared in their throats. Buzz. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's resolute and determined face was ferocious, and the corners of his mouth curled into a cruel and cold smile. The golden-winged rock's talisman wings spread out behind him, and a mighty golden wind rushed past like a tornado and golden lightning. It was powerful and terrifying, and its speed was shocking. In an instant, it appeared in front of the seriously injured martial royal realm expert who was entangled with Du Xiaoqing's body. Those who offend our Tianwu Academy shall pay with their blood. The violet gold heavenly tower was swung out again. A sword light swept out, accompanied by the roars of dragons and tigers, as well as the cries of birds and turtles. Dazzling runes bloomed in the sky, as if a peerless fiend god had awakened, enough to destroy everything. Qi La La. The martial royal realm expert tried his best to defend himself, but his defenses were completely destroyed. Blood spurted out from his mouth as he was suppressed by the sword light. His eyes were filled with fear, and his pupils constricted. In the end, he was unwillingly shattered into pieces, and a mist of blood splattered across the sky. A martial royal realm expert, a legendary expert, was killed with a single sword strike. What kind of terrifying strength was this? With the violet gold heavenly tower in his hand, Du Xiaofu's eyes were deep, and his killing intent soared to the heavens. The talisman wings of the golden-winged rock on his back emitted a golden light, and in the dark night, it was like a bright sun in the sky. Kill! Du Xiaofu shouted. The talisman wings on his back flapped, and a golden storm shook the surroundings. He was like a peerless ferocious beast, bathed in golden light, and swept the surroundings with his wings. The violet gold heavenly tower in his hand slashed out, and a martial king from the dark nether sect, who was fighting with the king of medicine, was turned into a mist of blood. Kill! The golden wings spread across the sky, and Du Xiaofu's blood-red eyes were filled with killing intent. The sword light flashed, and a martial king from the dark nether sect, who was fighting with the Jinan king, was killed. Kill! Another sword slashed out, and the sword light was like a thunderbolt. Another martial king from the dark nether sect was killed by the sword. The expressions of the people from the dark nether sect changed, and they were terrified. They were no match for the terrifying purple-robed young man. He still has such a trump card. Tianwu Academy will be saved. The eyes of the general, Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, Luo Tianchen, Xiang Tianyin, Li Yuxiao, and the others trembled. Each of them was covered in blood and wounds, but at this moment, their eyes were filled with excitement, and their blood was boiling. Du Xiaofu began his massacre, and he killed the people from the dark nether sect one by one. The sword light was peerless, and the aura was ferocious. A terrifying aura burst out in this ancient land, and it caused all the people from the dark nether sect to retreat with fear in their eyes. Rumble, Du Xiaofu continued to attack. The sword light was like a boundless divine waterfall, and he killed everything in his path. An uneasy aura lingered in the air. It's too late. TSK. TSK. Tianwu Academy will cease to exist. Old man Yin Ming sneered as he threw out the strange ball of light in his hand. A terrifying aura of destruction instantly soared into the sky. The dazzling light was like the sun rising from the east, and it illuminated the night sky brighter than the day. Boom! Heaven and earth trembled as the strange ball of light expanded, turning into a huge ball of lightning that resembled a star. Thunderous rumbles resounded in the sky. Silver snakes flickered as resplendent lightning filled the sky. It gave off an incomparably oppressive feeling of destruction. The violent energy spread out, causing one's soul to tremble violently. An indescribable feeling of unease crept up from the depths of many people's souls. Divine lightning sky annihilation. Old man Yin Ming sneered. This was the trump card he obtained from the upper echelons. It was powerful enough to destroy everything. As he formed a seal with his hand, thunderous rumbles resounded from the star-like ball of lightning. A terrifying destructive might of lightning spread out. Following that, the ball of lightning spread out. Layers of lightning surged toward Tianwu Academy like a tidal wave. It was as though a thunderstorm was descending. Rumble! In just an instant, the lightning that filled the sky descended upon Tianwu Academy. Many of the Tianwu Academy students were unable to escape in time. The moment their bodies came into contact with the violent lightning, they didn't even have the chance to scream before they were turned into ashes. Only the thunderous rumbles continued to resound in the sky. Peng peng peng. The lightning covered the sky and enveloped Tianwu Academy. Mountains crumbled, rivers were buried under rocks, and countless ancient buildings were reduced to rubble. Crumbling walls filled the sky. This was destruction. Wherever the lightning passed, it would destroy everything in its path. Countless living beings were annihilated. Everyone, retreat. Kings who are supporting the academy, bring some of your students away and leave behind the legacy of the academy. Grand Elder Lu Yu bellowed. Frenzied energy surged out from his skinny body as he activated the bloodline soul of an ancient mutated beast. The bloodline soul turned into a layer of runes that shrouded the sky, fending off the destructive lightning and shielding the students of Tianwu Academy as they retreated. Chapter 530. However, at this moment, even the Supreme Elder of Green Island was unable to withstand the terrifying power of the lightning. Puff! 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 Countless bolts of lightning struck down. Great Elder Qing Yu's aura was getting weaker and weaker. He stepped back and spat out mouthfuls of blood. All students, back off! Vice Principal Zhuge yelled. Spiritual stoves and talisman tripods appeared on the surface of his body, bursting with mysterious runes to resist the lightning. Whoosh! 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 The remaining elders of the inner house, Elder Hihu, Elder Murongxi, Elder Liao, and the others all rushed up to the sky. They activated their huge bodies of meridian souls and spiritual stoves and talisman tripods to resist the lightning and protect the students. Hong! Long! Long! Amidst the rumbling of thunder, thunderbolts that blotted out the sky and covered the earth smashed toward Great Elder Yu Yu, Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang, and the others. Under the destructive attack, everyone's meridian souls weakened. Their spiritual stoves and talisman tripods dimmed. Blood kept flowing out of their mouths. Everyone worked together, but it was still difficult to resist. The terrifying lightning was a forbidden power. It was too destructive. Kings who came to help, take some students and leave. You must leave the legacy for the school. Otherwise, I won't be able to rest in peace. Great Elder Qing Yu yelled. His withered body was shaking and cracking. He had used up all his energy and was burning his life force. Great Elder Qing Yu, take care. Lightning Racing King stepped into the sky and bade farewell with tears in his eyes. He waved his robe and a light twisted the space. He took a dozen students with extraordinary auras and left. Under such circumstances, he had no other choice but to take the most talented students away. Great Elder Qing Yu, take care. Soul-Breaking King, East Vanquishing King, South Vanquishing King, and the others who came to help all had tears in their eyes. Then they left with General, Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, Wu Kei, Guo Xiaofeng, Li Yuxiao, Tang Wu, and Yi Feiyu. Puff! Puff! Great Elder Qing Yu and Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang spat out blood. The destructive lightning destroyed everything. They couldn't hold on any longer. Du Xiaofu, think of a way to leave and leave behind a legacy for the academy. Supreme Elder Qing Yu let out a final roar and once again condensed a rune blade light that appeared out of thin air. The clouds surged and the energy wave left a dent in the vacuum. It directly struck the rolling thunderbolts with a force as fast as lightning. Although it shattered a lot of thunderbolts, it was unable to shake the destructive power of the thunderbolts at all. At this moment, Supreme Elder Qing Yu was finally at the end of his tether. His last bit of energy had been exhausted. His body's defenses were destroyed by a bolt of lightning, shattering the sky, and then his skinny body was directly blown to pieces. Bang bang! The vice principal, Zhuge Qiangbang, followed closely behind. His spiritual furnace and talisman cauldron were shattered, and his body was turned into fragments under the bombardment of lightning. Bang bang bang, the silver snake shone brightly and the lightning raged. Bolts of lightning roared madly like giant dragons, echoing endlessly in the void. One by one, the inner institute elders were annihilated. Elder Sun Biyue, Elder Hihu, Elder Liao, Elder Murongxi, and the others were smashed into pieces by the lightning and turned into blood mist. Arg, Du Xiaofu, who was in a deadlock with the terrifying sea of blood, saw the souls of the living faces being destroyed one after another before his eyes. Even the Supreme Elder Qing Yu and Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang were destroyed. He immediately let out a sorrowful cry, as if something had ripped out his heart and cut through his blood vessels. It was a heart-wrenching cry of grief. A whoop, as if it had been affected by Du Xiaofu's grief and fury, a tiger roared, a bird chirped, and a turtle chirped from the heavenly palace of purplish gold. An azure dragon, a white tiger, a phoenix, and a black tortoise appeared, destroying the blood-red palm with a baleful aura. It shocked the colossal figure in the sea of blood. Pfft! At the same time, the baleful aura above the heavenly palace of purplish gold surged once more. It was so overwhelming that even Du Xiaofu found it hard to withstand it. Large mouthfuls of blood spurted out from his mouth as the baleful aura wreaked havoc in his body, corroding his soul. For those who haven't added Xiao Yu's WeChat account, you can search for Yufeng YF on Xiao Yu's WeChat account. After adding him, enter Li Shui, and you'll be able to see the pictures. In the future, we'll be releasing pictures of Du Xiaofu, Xiaolong, Lu Jingyun, Lu Wushuang, Lu Xiaoyu, and the others. After destroying the Supreme Elder of Qing Yu and the others, the terrifying lightning spread across the sky and swept toward the students who were trying to hide in Tianwu Academy. Bang bang bang, wherever the lightning passed, the ground cracked, mountains crumbled, and a large number of students were destroyed. It was a tragic sight. Everything was destroyed. Everyone, run! Right at this moment, Du Xiaofu bellowed. As soon as he finished his words, his figure appeared amidst the frenzied lightning. Forming a hand seal, Du Xiaofu spurted a mouthful of blood and forcefully carried the heavenly palace of purplish gold on his back. The illusory figures of the azure dragon, white tiger, phoenix, black tortoise, and black tortoise continued to revolve around him. Golden profound qi burst forth from his body, and the golden runic wings on his back expanded to a size of over 100 zhang in order to defend against the frenzied lightning. In just a short period of time, Du Xiaofu's flesh was lacerated under the bombardment of the destructive lightning. Fresh blood flowed from his body. With his defenses destroyed, the runic wings on his back began to crack and shatter. The terrifying lightning was sufficient to destroy even a martial emperor expert. How could Du Xiaofu withstand it? Boom! The illusory figure of 5 mountains appeared around Du Xiaofu. The sound of wind, lightning, and spiritual energy permeated the air, connecting with the energy of heaven and earth, and continued to defend against the lightning. Bang bang, however, Du Xiaofu was still unable to withstand it. The illusory figure of the 5 mountains lost its strength and was shattered in an instant. Finally, Du Xiaofu's aura weakened and dissipated under the destructive power of the vast and terrifying thunderbolts. He closed his eyes as the thunderbolts wreaked havoc within his body, causing him to fall unconscious. Senior Du. In Tianwu Academy, tears streamed down the faces of the students. The destructive lightning was sufficient to destroy everything, but the purple-robed young man was still willing to use his physical body to defend against the lightning, allowing them to escape first. Junior Du, I'll lend you a hand. All of the ladies, escape first. Junior Du, I'll lend you a hand. Tears rolled down their cheeks as sorrowful cries echoed in the air. Some of the seniors of Tianwu Academy soared into the sky. Even though they couldn't withstand a single blow, they still wanted to help Du Xiaofu block the lightning and protect their juniors. Bang bang bang, under the lightning, the students of Tianwu Academy were too weak. They couldn't withstand a single blow. Even so, there was still a steady stream of students who charged forward, wanting to help Du Xiaofu. Blood splattered everywhere, and countless heroic souls dissipated. Ah! Sorrowful cries immediately rang out from this ancient land. The wind and trees were filled with sorrow, creating a sad song that was full of sorrow. As the tragic melody spread out, those who heard it felt as though their hearts were being sliced by a knife. They were heartbroken, and tears flowed down their cheeks, hong long long. Under the bombardment of lightning, Du Xiaofu's eyes were tightly shut as his body floated in midair. All of a sudden, a mysterious energy that had been hibernating on the surface of his body awakened, releasing a mysterious glow. Streaks of mysterious light leaped out and connected with his meridians and blood vessels. When these mysterious streaks of light gathered together, a terrifying aura emanated from Du Xiaofu's body. An ancient aura descended, and the aura grew stronger and stronger. A domineering and destructive aura was awakening and surging, Chi Lala. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, the terrifying lightning released by the terrifying lightning sphere in the sky seemed to be attracted by something. Streaks of lightning gathered together and surged toward Du Xiaofu. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, the terrifying lightning roared crazily. It was as though countless lightning pythons were charging toward Du Xiaofu. However, Du Xiaofu wasn't harmed by the violent attacks at all. On the contrary, the violent lightning seemed to have been devoured by Du Xiaofu, completely enveloping Du Xiaofu. Hong Long Long, in that instant, the terrifying lightning no longer engulfed the entire Tianwu Academy. Instead, it was absorbed into Du Xiaofu's body. Streaks of lightning wreaked havoc for several dozen zhang, causing Du Xiaofu's body to resemble a ball of lightning that bloomed with silver snakes. A terrifying aura lingered in the sky. How could this be? This unforeseen event caused Old Man Yin Ming, Shui Yao, and the others to tremble in fear. That terrifying lightning destruction was actually affected by such a strange thing. Hong Long, at this moment, the ground trembled for no reason. In such a bloody and intense battle, not many people paid special attention to it. Everywhere was razed to the ground and turned into ruins. Only the Tianwu Talisman realm remained intact. And now, the ancient stone door of the Tianwu Talisman realm started to tremble after the lightning figure forcefully entered. Boom! Suddenly, the ancient stone door opened and a lightning figure charged out like a ball of lightning. It was the lightning figure that had charged into the Tianwu Talisman realm earlier. However, this person's aura seemed to be dispirited. Chi! The instant this person appeared with lightning wrapped around him, a pair of eyes filled with dazzling lightning within the ball of lightning landed on Du Xiaofu, who was wrapped in the ball of lightning. Astonishment appeared in his eyes. Within the Tianwu Talisman realm, outside the ancient stone door, as the lightning figure rushed out, another figure appeared. As that figure appeared, it was as if the entire world had frozen in silence. I've been working through the night to write these 3 chapters. This war is related to the secret intervention of more than 5 superpowers, so I'm exhausted. I've also written a lot of chapters. When I write about the fall of the Grand Elders of Green Island, I'm also heartbroken. I hope to be able to touch everyone's hearts. That's right. It's the last day of the month. Brothers, check the fresh flowers and see if there are any fresh flowers that haven't been posted yet. How about this? The fresh flowers are currently ranked 3rd on the monthly rankings. If the fresh flowers can reach 2nd place on the monthly rankings today, Xiao Yu will update 4 chapters every day for the next month. If he reaches 1st place, he will update 5 chapters every day. Of course, if it's time, I still have to let Xiao Yu rest on Sunday. He just wanted some pressure to update. Pressure was motivation, and there was no other purpose. Could he update 5 chapters every day for the next month? It was equivalent to other people erupting every day. He asked readers to support him together. Xiao Yu also wanted to crazily update for a month next month to restore the fighting strength of the past. In addition, according to the usual practice, on the 1st of tomorrow, there would naturally be a burst of fresh flowers. Xiao Yu should sleep for a while and then prepare for tomorrow's burst at the beginning of the month. Chapter 531. Following the appearance of this figure, an ancient aura slowly spread out from the stone door of the heavenly martial talisman realm. One could faintly see a vast and mighty aura spreading out from the hazy space behind the stone door. The ancient aura was vast and boundless, causing one to unconsciously feel reverence from the depths of their soul. The figure was a middle-aged man in his 40s. His black hair reached his shoulders and he could not be considered handsome. However, his face was very clean, causing one to feel a sense of cleanliness when looking at his face. When they saw the figure of this person, many people from the Tianwu Academy were astonished. The black-haired man in front of them was originally the person who had been sleeping on a large rock beside the stone door of the heavenly martial talisman realm. Following the appearance of this middle-aged man, the figure wrapped in lightning revealed a look of fear. His dispirited aura fluctuated as he shifted his gaze away from Du Xiaofu, who was wrapped in lightning, and rapidly streaked across the sky to leave. The lightning figure had appeared in a strange manner and left in a strange manner as well. He did not affect anyone and did not interfere with anything. It was as though he had never appeared before. However, everyone clearly saw him before. In front of the ancient stone door of the heavenly martial talisman realm, the middle-aged man looked at the lightning figure that had escaped and did not give chase. His gaze then landed on Du Xiaofu, who was currently wrapped in a torrent of destructive lightning. Astonishment and surprise appeared in his eyes on his clean face. Walala, silver pythons wreaked havoc around the destructive lightning ball, causing one's heart to palpitate uneasily. However, in just a short period of time, the terrifying lightning that was terrifying enough to destroy the entire Tianwu Academy gradually poured into Du Xiaofu's body. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's body was like a bottomless pit, completely devouring the vast destructive lightning into his body. However, Du Xiaofu had already fainted. His body floated in mid-air and lightning flickered faintly within his body. It was like a silver snake slithering about, spreading out a destructive aura. How could this be? This is impossible. Old man Yinming's figure floated in midair as his body trembled violently. Fear flickered in his eyes. The divine lightning sky annihilation was powerful enough to annihilate all living beings in Tianwu Academy. Even martial emperors wouldn't be able to withstand it. This was the forbidden trump card he had brought with him this time to ensure that he could annihilate Tianwu Academy. However, at this moment, the frightening thunderbolt of the divine lightning sky annihilation was actually directly absorbed by the frightening and strange purple-robed young man. This was too frightening, causing old man Yinming to be involuntarily shocked. If it was a martial royal realm cultivator who had reached the completion realm, his body would have exploded 10 times. However, the young man's body was still in good condition. Old man Yinming felt extremely uneasy and terrified as the ancient aura spread out. Rumble, all of a sudden, the Tianwu Academy that was in a mess began to tremble, especially the Tianwu Talisman Zone. Rumbling noises resounded incessantly in the ruined plaza, as though something was about to erupt. Voila! Within the ancient stone gate of the Tianwu Talisman Zone, the runes within the rippling light fluctuated. A spatial crack spread out like a wave of air as a dazzling light appeared. The ancient and boundless aura became more and more astonishing, dignified and majestic, as though it was inviolable. Everyone's gazes were astonished as they looked over. It seemed like the heaven martial talisman was trembling. At that moment, in front of the ancient stone door, the clean middle-aged man's figure silently disappeared as well, as if he had never appeared. Bang, 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 a series of explosions resounded, causing the earth to tremble and the mountains to crumble. Countless mountains in the distance collapsed, and huge rocks were turned into dust. Countless gusts of wind rose up from the ground, and deep ravines extended out from the depths of the valley. It was as though everything was about to be destroyed. Rumble, the entire plaza of the Tianwu Talisman Zone caved in. The ravines on the ground separated, and large patches of dazzling runes disappeared. This terrifying aura was especially terrifying. Even the sea of blood in the sky was rippling violently. That terrifying aura was simply too frightening. It was impossible for people not to feel pressured and in awe. Swoosh, swoosh, in the dark night sky, 2 figures streaked across the sky from afar. Suddenly, the 2 figures stopped in midair as they looked in the direction of Tianwu Academy, where the mountains were crumbling and the earth was crumbling. The face of the young lady in the lead changed drastically. She was a young lady around 6 to 7 years old, probably not even 18 yet. She was dressed in a light green dress that outlined her youthful curves. 2 strands of pitch-black hair by her cheeks fluttered gently in the wind, adding to her allure. However, at this moment, her eyes suddenly turned grave. Young mistress, something has happened in Tianwu Academy. It seems like someone couldn't hold back and decided to make a move on Tianwu Academy. Behind the young lady, there was an ordinary-looking old man with a staggering body. He looked at the crumbling Tianwu Academy in front of him, which was as bright as day. On his aged face, there was a pair of eyes that resembled the swirling stars. Under the influence of the invisible aura emanating from the old man, the surrounding space seemed to be affected as well. It was as though he was the sovereign of this world. Voila! Amidst the crumbling of the plaza, a dazzling light started to emanate from the ravine, creating a dazzling sight. The light was so dazzling that no one dared to look at it directly. It felt as though the light had traversed through space, giving off a mystical feeling. It felt as though the light was traveling through space and time. It was extremely profound. After which, the light rippled through the air, causing the space to fluctuate. The dazzling light slowly receded, and everything returned to normal. After everything disappeared, the ancient land of Tianwu Academy seemed to have turned from day to night. Only the blood sea and the luminous moon in the sky were still emanating light. At this moment, the entire celestial martial talisman realm that stood tall in Tianwu Academy also exploded and disappeared. The ground caved in and the celestial martial talisman realm ceased to exist. Even the surrounding mountain range was razed to the ground. Senior Du is gone. When everything returned to normal, someone realized that Du Xiaofu, who was floating in midair and enduring the destructive lightning alone, had disappeared without a trace. Senior Du must have been reduced to a mist of blood and endured the destructive lightning alone. How could he still be alive? Senior Du, among the fleeing students of Tianwu Academy, there were some who cried in grief. Elder brother! Roar! Du Shaoqing, who had already reverted back to her original form, had tears in her eyes. At this moment, she couldn't sense her elder brother's presence. He had disappeared completely. The little tiger roared. Its ferocious black body was riddled with wounds and fresh blood was dripping from it. It was in a miserable state after being surrounded in the intense battle. Did you see the guild leader? The Eagle King Gong Dao was riddled with wounds. His right arm was almost crippled, and his face was pale. He asked the Medicine King, who was also in a miserable state. I didn't see him clearly. The Medicine King Yi Wuming's eyes trembled. At this moment, blood was dripping from the corner of his lips. Due to the dazzling light, no one could look straight at him. Yin Ming, eliminate the source of trouble and find that thing. Within the blood sea, the blood demon bellowed. However, he was being held back by Grandma Silverflower. Even though he wasn't afraid of her, it was still difficult for him to break free. Old Man Yin's face was cold. He knew the main task of this mission. If he failed, he also knew the consequences. His heart was filled with fear. As such, Old Man Yin didn't dare to slack off. With a wave of his hand, many universe bags that were locked onto by his aura flew into his hand. They were the universe bags left behind by the Grand Elder of Qingyu Island, Vice Principal Zhuge Qianbang, and the others who were destroyed by the Divine Lightning Annihilation. Just a bunch of small fries. Let's cut the weeds and dig up the roots. Old Man Yin's cold and indifferent voice rang out. Out of the 7,000 to 8,000 Tianwu Academy students, less than 2,000 of them had fled in all directions. Kill! There weren't many Dark Nether sect members left. However, in terms of cultivation, they were much stronger than the Tianwu Academy students. When they heard Old Man Yin's words, they regained their senses from the fear in their eyes and continued to charge toward the Tianwu Academy students. Let's fight it out with these bastards and avenge the elders. Let's fight it out with them and avenge Senior Du. The remaining students were agitated. Their grief was unbearable, and they wanted to fight to the death. Everyone, run. Don't make unnecessary sacrifices. The Medicine King bellowed. He appeared in front of the group and attacked the Dark Nether sect members with all his might. Chi! In midair, a graceful figure suddenly streaked across the sky and landed on the ground. Her dress fluttered in the wind, accentuating her slender figure. Along with the surging of mysterious runes, she exuded an otherworldly aura. Several Tianwu Academy students who had just charged forward were instantly killed by the mysterious runes. Qi Yeshi. Junior sister Qi Yeshi is back. The elders were killed by them. Senior sister Qi Yeshi, avenge the elders. Looking at the alluring figure that had suddenly appeared, the remaining Tianwu Academy students roared. It was as though they had seen a ray of hope. Chapter 532. The young lady was Qi Yeshi, who was ranked second on the martial roll. All the students in the academy knew that only Qi Yeshi could truly contend with Du Xiaofu. Qi Yeshi appeared and looked at the ruins around her. Broken walls were everywhere, blood flowed like a river, and countless corpses of the academy's students were piled up. Coldness surged in her bright eyes on her beautiful face, causing the surrounding temperature to suddenly drop. There's actually someone extraordinary. Old man Yin Ming looked at Qi Yeshi with a surprised expression. Then, he dashed out and an oppressive cold aura swept down from his hand, directly suppressing Qi Yeshi. Facing old man Yin Ming's attack, Qi Yeshi raised her head and looked at him without any fear. Her beautiful eyes were clear and cold, spreading out. You're just a mere martial emperor at the Nirvana realm. You're just an ant. The melodious and boundless voice was as vast as the sea of stars in the night sky. As the voice spread out, a palm print appeared out of thin air in front of Qi Yeshi. Mysterious runes surged out and directly destroyed old man Yin Ming's cold aura. In the end, it landed on old man Yin Ming's body effortlessly. Rumble, as the mysterious palm descended, the defenses on old man Yin Ming's body were destroyed in an unstoppable manner. Bang! Old man Yin Ming's body directly fell to the ground from midair as fresh blood spurted out from his mouth. He smashed violently onto the ground. After which, his eyes were suddenly filled with shock and fear. Old man Yin Ming was a martial emperor at the Nirvana realm. He was considered an absolute expert in the central region. Who would have thought that he would be so weak at this moment? In an instant, numerous gazes immediately landed on Qi Yeshi. A staggering old man appeared before Qi Yeshi without a sound. His appearance was nothing special, and he seemed ordinary, but his appearance caused everyone's souls to tremble for no reason. How many people in the world would dare to touch Tianwu Academy? To think that it would be targeted by a bunch of ignorant ants. Perhaps, this is the will of the heavens, sigh. The hobbling elder sighed. He knew of the history of Tianwu Academy. In the current world, even the major clans and powers didn't dare to touch Tianwu Academy as they were the only ones who knew of the history of Tianwu Academy. They were the only ones who knew of the past glory of Tianwu Academy. They were the only ones who knew of the terrifying figures that came from Tianwu Academy. Those fearsome figures who had walked out of Tianwu Academy back then were comparable to the major clans and powers, and they looked down on the world with disdain. It had been a long time, and those terrifying figures in Tianwu Academy had long disappeared. Tianwu Academy had also gradually declined. However, the major clans and powers knew some secrets. Regardless of how Tianwu Academy had declined, the more secrets they knew, the more they wouldn't dare to touch Tianwu Academy. Yet, right now, a bunch of ignorant ants had destroyed Tianwu Academy. How could the hobbling elder not sigh in amazement? The stumbling old man sighed softly. He looked up at the sea of blood in the sky and said softly, "Even an inferior evil technique is very dazzling." As he sighed faintly, the staggering old man waved his hand and slapped at the sea of blood in the sky that covered the entire sky. Boom! As soon as the old man attacked, the surrounding space trembled. Mysterious glowing runes immediately surged out of thin air, converging into a five-fingered spatial handprint. The five-fingered handprint covered the sky and was like a revolving star. The mysterious runes on the runes seemed slow, but they were actually as fast as lightning. In an instant, the handprint landed on the sea of blood. Walala! The handprint slammed onto the sea of blood that blotted out the sky and earth. It was like the stars in the night sky releasing their light. It carried a vast aura that blotted out the sky and earth. The pressure was unparalleled and suppressed the sky. Under the terrifying handprint, the terrifying sea of blood cowered like a sheep in front of a ferocious tiger. Then, it was completely destroyed by the handprint. It was as though the divine radiance of the moon and stars were purifying the filth in the world, destroying the sea of blood as easily as crushing dry weeds. Bang! The sea of blood was completely destroyed and purified. A blood-colored figure fell from the sky and crashed into the ravine. Goo goo. At this moment, the entire place was in a daze. It was only after a long while that the sound of saliva being swallowed could be heard. Everyone's eyes were so shocked that they were about to pop out of their eye sockets. At this moment, Medicine King Yi Wuming, Eagle King, Gong Dao, and the others were no exception. They sucked in a breath of cold air. That terrifying elder was like a supreme being. Run! Everyone, run! In the ravine far away, a blood-colored figure could be seen fleeing miserably. Not far away, Old Man Yin Ming was also fleeing for his life. Elder Kong, kill them! Qi Yeshi shouted. Her shrewd eyes were filled with coldness. Young miss, we can't interfere with the matters of the outside world. You should understand that. The hobbling elder looked at the fleeing blood demon and Old Man Yin Ming and sighed. Qi Yeshi said, they aren't the main culprits. In the future, someone will make them pay the price. Everything disappeared and the night returned. The ancient Tianwu Academy no longer existed. Everything was in ruins. Broken walls, cracks, and the smell of blood permeated the air. There were traces of tragedy everywhere. In the ruins, mournful cries could be heard. At dawn, the golden radiance of the morning sun gradually dyed the eastern horizon red and illuminated the earth. It was a pity that the ancient Tianwu Academy no longer existed. On a huge rock on a collapsed mountain, the first rays of the morning sun shone on Qi Yeshi's body. Her youthful and graceful figure seemed to be enveloped in a divine radiance. It was a breathtaking sight. How could he die? He definitely wouldn't. Qi Yeshi looked at the morning sun. Her eyes were like the starry sky, deep and clear. Her brows were tightly knitted. Young miss, according to what you said, if that brat really had a Marshall Vane's spiritual imprint, he wouldn't have died so easily. It wouldn't be easy to kill him. The tottering old man silently appeared behind Qi Yeshi and said, it's a pity that I can't personally prove whether he's a descendant of that clan or not. Is there really a descendant of that clan? He is so savage. Who can kill him? He will definitely be fine. Qi Yeshi softly muttered. In her mind, ever since her lips were marked in that battle, that savage figure had been imprinted in her mind. That resolute and determined face often appeared in her mind. The more she wanted to get rid of it, the harder it was for her to do so. Young miss, Tianwu Academy no longer exists. It's time for us to return. The 5 years in the Tianwu Talisman realm has already bought you enough time to build your foundation. We can't waste any more time. The other clans have their own methods as well. It's said that many top talents have emerged from the various clans this time. There are even some innate paragons, the hobbling elder said to Qi Yeshi. The next time I leave the clan will be the day the Dark Nether sect pays the price. Qi Yeshi softly muttered as a cold glint flashed across her eyes. Tianwu Academy was razed to the ground. The academy that had stood for countless years no longer existed. It was reduced to ruins in a single night. When the news spread out, everyone was shocked. Countless forces rushed over and many experts rushed over. Some of them came to watch the show, but most of them had the intention to seek benefits. For a time, the ruins of Tianwu Academy were filled with people. The remaining students of Tianwu Academy were unable to stop them. The students of Tianwu Academy quietly buried the remains of the academy. No one dared to disturb the students of Tianwu Academy. Even the four major powers didn't dare to do so. After all, Grandma Silverflower had appeared to help Tianwu Academy last night. Out of fear for Grandma Silverflower, no one dared to touch the remaining students of Tianwu Academy. Time slowly passed, and several days later, amidst the ruins of Tianwu Academy, a massive mausoleum was erected. All of the fallen students were buried together, and on the massive tombstone, several thousand names were inscribed. In the dark forest, a large group of people rushed into Tianwu Academy. In the ruins of the mountain range, there were indeed people who found treasures and spiritual herbs. The herb fields of Tianwu Academy were destroyed and the spiritual herbs were scattered everywhere. Everyone fought over them, causing a bloody battle to break out. However, this kind of fighting was eventually snatched away by experts. Some people saw experts from the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects appear in the dark forest. There were also many mysterious experts who arrived and obtained many benefits. Some people even saw Xue Tianqiu, Wan Sanpang, Hen Tian, Hen Di, Mu Mingqing, and the other leaders of the four major powers appear and snatch many benefits. However, they didn't stay for long. It was as though they had their own misgivings. Because in the next few days, there seemed to be quite a number of kings who had rushed to Tianwu Academy to pay their respects to the heroic souls who had perished in Tianwu Academy. Some kings wailed sorrowfully, while others roared furiously, shocking the surroundings. Tianwu Academy was actually razed to the ground. It no longer exists. What is the background of the Dark Nether sect? How could they be so powerful? Brave King Du Xiaofu has fallen as well. He blocked that terrifying lightning with his own strength. How heroic! Several days had passed since Tianwu Academy was razed to the ground. However, the topic of Tianwu Academy's destruction was still being discussed by many. In a hazy space, there was a dazzling light. At this moment, a figure could be seen floating in the hazy space. Sizzling sounds could be heard, and from time to time, there would be silver snake-like streaks of lightning shuttling around his body. At this moment, no one knew that Du Xiaofu, who everyone thought had died under Tianwu Academy's lightning, had actually appeared in this mystical space. Chapter 533. Lightning flashed around Du Xiaofu's body. His bloody body was covered in a mysterious net of light. The mysterious net of light flickered and jumped, as if a life was awakening and a will was awakening. An ancient pressure spread out from the mysterious light net, causing the surrounding misty space to tremble. Time passed slowly. The space was silent. Time seemed to have lost its meaning in this silent space. However, time could also be reflected in this space. It could be seen that the wounds on Du Xiaofu's body were gradually healing. There was also a life force jumping around. This proved that Du Xiaofu was not dead. He was just unconscious. However, this process was extremely slow. Du Xiaofu's injuries were too severe this time. Even if he relied on his abnormal defense and recovery, it would be difficult for him to recover in a short time. After an unknown amount of time, Du Xiaofu, who was suspended in the air, still showed no signs of waking up. However, one could see that his originally pale face had gradually become rosy after a long period of time. Even his aura had begun to fluctuate more and more intensely. Boom! After an unknown amount of time, it was certain that it was an extremely long time. Finally, a terrifying aura exploded from Du Xiaofu's body, destroying all of his clothes. Instantly, Du Xiaofu's purple gold heavenly tower, Du Xiaoyao's mountain rock, and the small pagoda Zhen Qingquan's foot all floated in the surrounding space. Even the Qianquan bags floated in the surroundings. Chi la la. At the same time, Du Xiaofu's naked body was tightly connected to his meridians and blood vessels. The mysterious light net crisscrossed. The ancient aura made him seem like the king of this world. Du Xiaofu's eyes were still tightly shut. However, at this moment, his entire body was wrapped in a dense mysterious light net. On the mysterious light net, lightning flashed like silver snakes. It was as if Du Xiaofu's body was wrapped in dazzling electric flames. Hua la la. It was clearly the destructive power of lightning. However, at this moment, the unconscious Du Xiaofu's body gave off a feeling of vitality. Even as the electric light flashed, waves of shocking energy surged into Du Xiaofu's body, causing Du Xiaofu's weak aura to gradually recover. Within the electric light flashed, there was the destructive power of lightning. At this moment, if someone could see it, they would naturally be surprised to feel that the energy that was overflowing from the mysterious light and entering Du Xiaofu's body was the energy that the mysterious light net had devoured from the divine thunder sky annihilation. However, the sky's sea of lightning divine lightning seemed to have been purified and destroyed by the mysterious light net. The pure lightning power. When this pure lightning energy surged into Du Xiaofu's body, it was as harmonious as a fish swimming into the sea. It was as if the pure lightning energy was supposed to exist in this body. After being purified by the mysterious light net, it was unknown how much of the lightning energy could overflow. It continuously surged into Du Xiaofu's body. At the same time, it nourished Du Xiaofu's internal organs, limbs, cells, and blood vessels. Roar, space trembled, like the roars of dragons and tigers, like the awakening of gods and devils. Within the space, the purple gold heavenly tower that had left Du Xiaofu's body suddenly began to tremble. A monstrous baleful aura surged out, as if it was struggling with all its might, roaring and resisting. Walala, however, that shocking baleful aura seemed to be restrained and suppressed by a certain restrictive power within the sword. Although it was constantly resisting and struggling, it was unable to break free from the restraints for a moment. However, at this moment, the sword's body was trembling violently. Its fiendish aura was overflowing. It was likely that it was about to break free. Swish, in the misty space, the space suddenly fluctuated without a trace, and the figure of a burly man in his 40s appeared in this space. The middle-aged man had shoulder-length black hair. He was the mysterious burly man who often dozed off on a huge rock outside the Tianwu Talisman realm. As the black-haired man appeared, the violently trembling heavenly tower of purple gold seemed to have sensed something. It suddenly stopped struggling, and the sword buzzed with wind and thunder as it pointed the tip of the sword at the middle-aged man. Since you've already been restricted, just obediently stay there. Why do you have to come out and cause trouble? The eyes on the burly man's clean face looked at the purple gold heavenly tower. As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his hand. Suddenly, a dazzling light accompanied by a boundless ancient aura enveloped the purple gold heavenly tower. Voila, the boundless ancient aura spewed out multicolored light. In this misty space, it was like a comet blooming in the void. The dazzling divine light filled this space and immediately surged into the purple gold heavenly tower to suppress the fiendish aura. Woo woo. We are of the same kind. Why are you helping them suppress me? I will definitely not let you off. Once I break free, I will definitely devour you. With the suppression of the vast and ancient aura, the purple gold heavenly palace suddenly emitted a shrill roar that sounded like a god fiend. You want to devour me? I'm afraid that's far from enough. Although you have some ability, you're still too weak. The burly man said softly. He formed a hand seal and the boundless ancient aura surged into the purple gold heavenly tower, completely suppressing the purple gold heavenly tower. With the suppression of the burly man, the fiendish aura surging from the purple gold heavenly tower was directly purified. Amid the unwillingness and rage of the aura, the purple gold heavenly tower no longer moved. It was firmly suppressed again. As the purple gold heavenly tower was suppressed once again, the middle-aged man's body trembled slightly. Suddenly, it was like a flickering light, almost fading away. However, it quickly recovered and he looked at the naked Du Xiaofu who was floating in the air. Whether it's a blessing or a curse in the future will depend on you. I hope you can live up to my expectations. As soon as the burly man finished speaking, he sighed. Then, his body began to flicker with light. In the end, it turned into mysterious runes that filled the sky. They flickered with multicolored light and filled the space with dazzling divine light. The mysterious runes flickered and arranged themselves. In the end, they turned into a shapeless sphere of light. It spun like a star and disappeared into the space between Du Xiaofu's eyebrows. Du Xiaofu was still unconscious and was unaware of all this. However, the aura around his body was rising. The pure lightning energy that overflowed from the mysterious light net around his body continuously surged into his body. In a daze, Du Xiaofu seemed to have entered a hazy dream. At the beginning, he entered a sea of lightning. The rolling sea of lightning seemed to contain the power of the heavens and earth. Destruction was accompanied by vitality. Du Xiaofu felt as if he was born from the sea of lightning. He wanted to absorb the energy in the sea of lightning to strengthen himself. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't absorb it. After that, Du Xiaofu entered a second dream. He seemed to have returned to the Tianwu Academy's Tianwu Talisman region and entered the long corridor that was spewing multicolored light. All of the beast energies, secret arts, martial techniques, and so on appeared before Du Xiaofu's eyes. They flickered with light and were illusory. Their auras were ancient and boundless. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was astonished to find that as long as he peeked into the beast energy's secret arts, he would be able to see them in their most primitive state. They would break down, evolve, rearrange, and then condense again. This cycle continued endlessly, allowing him to comprehend their essence. The dream was hazy and dreamlike. However, Du Xiaofu was still immersed in it and carefully comprehended the various beast energy secret arts. Du Xiaogang was deeply immersed in comprehending the various beast energy secret arts and he didn't know when he would wake up. In the outside world, 3 months had passed since Tianwu Academy was razed to the ground. Thinking that Tianwu Academy had disappeared, countless people sighed. On the vast continent far away, there were overlapping mountain ranges and huge cities. It was as if a black ancient dragon was coiling across the horizon. A lady wearing orange-red tight clothes stood quietly at the top of the mountain overlooking the land. Her long and slender legs and her narrow waist that could not be hugged caused her originally tall figure to appear even more slender and enchanting. Her appearance was extremely moving. However, at this moment, this enchanting lady was frowning as she looked into the distance. Her eyes were moist as she muttered, "Have you really fallen? You said that you would wait for me to return. Are you going to go back on your words?" The destruction of Tianwu Academy caused a huge commotion in the dark forest. However, after 3 months, peace gradually returned to the dark forest. The dark forest was the dark forest. It had its own order and rules. In the dark city, in a vast hall of the Black Fiends sect, many figures were seated and their auras weren't weak. Among them was a black-robed, skinny old man in his 60s. He had a gloomy expression on his face. He was the sect master of the Black Fiends sect, Xue Tianqiu. Sect master, Du Xiaofu hasn't appeared in the past 3 months. I'm afraid that he is already dead. With Tianwu Academy destroyed, the world society has lost its backing. According to the information we have gathered, the Eagle King's gong blade has been crippled and the Medicine King is severely injured. The world society no longer has any experts and now is the best time to eliminate them. In the hall, a tall and skinny old man in his 70s spoke to Xue Tianqiu. He was dressed in a long robe that gave off a cloak. He was Hermit Wu Zhen, who had left the world society back then. Chapter 534. Hermit is right. Now is the best time to destroy the world society. It's a pity that Du Xiaofu is dead. I can't kill him personally, so it's not enough to extinguish the hatred in my heart. Xue Tianqiu's face was gloomy as a murderous aura spread out from his body, causing the surrounding space to show signs of distortion. His deep eyes were filled with cold anger as he looked at Hermit Wu Zhen. There was some worry in the depths of his eyes as he said to Hermit Wu Zhen in a low voice, "Even if that brat Du Xiaofu is dead, I won't let him off. However, there is still the Chaos Demon Cliff in the Chaos Demon City. If we eliminate the world society now, I'm afraid we won't be able to obtain the Chaos Demon City. The silver-winged demonic condor won't be easy to deal with. Moreover, the Medicine King, Yi Wuming, is still in the world society. If we fight with the Medicine King and both sides suffer heavy losses, the Mu Clan Fort, Twin Hatred Sect, and Myriad Cloud Pavilion might not take the opportunity to deal with us. Sect Master, I have an idea. If we succeed, we will be killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Not only will we be able to destroy the world society, but we will also be able to control the Medicine King. That would be, hee. Hermit Wu Zhen sneered coldly before whispering something into Xue Tianqiu's ear. Xue Tianqiu's gloomy face revealed a smile as if he was extremely excited. Hermit, will this really work? When Xue Tianqiu finally learned of the plan, his old face trembled with excitement. There definitely won't be any problems. As long as the plan doesn't have any problems, it will be foolproof. When the time comes, hee. Hermit Wu Zhen laughed sinisterly as his eyes glowed with vigor. He naturally had absolute confidence in his plan. When Xue Tianqiu heard this, his eyes glowed with vigor. However, there was still a trace of worry in his eyes as he said to Hermit Wu Zhen, "Hermit, although this plan is brilliant, Grandma Silver Flower is still around. If she interferes, it will be troublesome." When Grandma Silver Flower was mentioned, Hermit Wu Zhen's heart trembled. Then, his old face returned to normal as he said to Xue Tianqiu, "Sect Master, you don't have to worry. We aren't going to war with them. Grandma Silver Flower naturally, she won't interfere. As long as we succeed, the world society, the entire Dark Forest Sect, and Grandma Silver Flower will naturally not. As long as we succeed, the world society. Hee. Let's do as the mountain man says. I'll destroy the world society to vent my anger." Xue Tianqiu sneered. This plan was flawless. Not long after, he would be able to control the entire Dark Forest. The only regret was that Du Xiaofu had died early. It was a pity that he had so many treasures on him. Not being able to kill him personally was not enough to appease the hatred in his heart. Dark in Dark City. Dark was dark the dark. Of sin s in ss to in test to a a's a sound in a. Through the door, one could see a young lady standing in front of an old man who looked to be in his 60s. The old man wore a long robe and had a thin face. His eyebrows were long and thin, emitting a chilling aura. His small eyes were fluctuating with radiance, giving one the impression that he had a pointy mouth and monkey-like cheeks. At this moment, he was looking at the young lady's clean body. "You are truly a good disciple of Master." The pointy mouth and monkey-like cheeks old man let out a lewd laugh and immediately pulled the lady into his embrace. The woman took the opportunity to lie in the old man's arms. Her eyes were filled with charm as she took the opportunity to grab the old man's thing that had long since become vigorous. Her face was flushed with intoxication as she said, "Master is bullying your disciple again." The old man let out a lewd laugh and said, "When did Master bully you? Look at how tender your skin is. I can't bear to bully you." As soon as he said that, the old man touched her body. His hands were full as he kneaded and pinched. The lady smiled and looked at the old man in a flirtatious manner. "Master, be gentler. You are hurting me." Creak. At this moment, the door opened with a creak and a thin old man walked in. It was Mountain Man Wu Zhen. He looked at the scene in the room and did not seem to find it strange. He said to the pointy mouth and monkey-like cheeks old man, "Things are about done. Shui Tianqiu has agreed to the plan. TSK, the pointy mouth and monkey-like cheeks old man was not surprised by the appearance of mountain man Wu Zhen. Hearing this, he immediately revealed a cold smile and said, "It seems that it will not be long before the entire dark forest will be ours." After saying that, the pointy mouth and monkey-like cheeks old man paused for a moment. He looked at mountain man Wu Zhen and asked, "How should we deal with Shui Tianqiu when the time comes? He has some strength and is not easy to deal with. It is likely that it will not be his turn at that time. If Shui Tianqiu is tactful, I will naturally spare his life. If he is not, I will have no choice but to use some special methods. I will leave him to you to deal with." Hermit Wu Zhen laughed sinisterly. His eyes were fixed on the clean lady as he spoke. "Just as well. When the time comes, we will naturally have a way to deal with him." The pointy mouth and monkey-like cheeks old man looked at mountain man Wu Zhen and said with a filthy smile, "Do you want to join us?" "Of course." A smile appeared on mountain man Wu Zhen's aged face. Night enveloped the courtyard. Soon, the sound of debauchery continued. In the misty space, time seemed to have lost its meaning. After an unknown period of time, the aura on Du Xiaofu's body grew denser and denser. It gradually accumulated and finally climbed to the peak. Accompanied by the flickering of lightning, his aura surged like a volcano that was about to erupt. Boom! Finally, the volcano-like aura surged, causing the entire misty space to tremble. In an instant, a terrifying aura rippled out from Du Xiaofu's body and spread across the misty space. Suddenly, the thunder and lightning flames on Du Xiaofu's naked body also suddenly expanded, and then spread in all directions. Finally, with the power of lightning, it dazzled the magical light net on the surface of Du Xiaofu's body, and countless ancient and majestic talisman mysterious patterns spread out. Screech! At the same time, an astonishing golden-winged rock image condensed on the surface of Du Xiaofu's body. The image seemed to have been injected with life. It spread its wings and soared into the sky, suppressing space in a domineering and ferocious manner. Walala! At this moment, a strange change appeared on Du Xiaofu's body. The golden-winged rock image seemed to be able to connect with the mysterious light. As it flapped its wings, it faintly carried lightning. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's eyes were still tightly shut. His body was wrapped in a dazzling golden light and his aura was soaring. The golden-winged rock image on his body was unpredictable. It flapped its wings and soared into the sky one moment, and looked down on all living things the next. A terrifying pressure swept out and was extremely shocking. In just a moment, a bright light began to spread on the surface of Du Xiaofu's body. There was a vigorous and domineering aura that spread out like a tide. Bang! After a slight muffled sound, the aura on Du Xiaofu's body rose to the peak. It was as if he had jumped and suddenly entered another level. A mysterious aura of the Martial Marquis level swept across the sky forcefully and domineeringly. At the same time, Du Xiaofu, who was floating in the air, suddenly opened his tightly shut eyes. Two bright golden lights burst out from his eyes that had been closed for a long time. Chi-chi! Within the golden talisman runes, there was a faint flicker of lightning. Then, Du Xiaofu's naked body also floated in the air as he sat cross-legged in this misty space. A vigorous and domineering aura continued to spread out. "You've finally woken up." At this moment, a voice resounded in this misty space and landed in Du Xiaofu's ears. Suddenly, in Du Xiaofu's eyes that had just opened, an unusual fluctuation appeared within the golden light, and then he closed them again. Swish, his mind rippled. In a daze, Du Xiaofu felt his mind appear in an ancient and boundless space. This space was extremely mysterious. The surrounding multicolored light was misty and the surroundings were blurry. The aura in this space also made Du Xiaofu feel a sense of déjà vu. "It's good that you're awake. You've finally made it." A leisurely voice sounded out. Chapter 535. The current Heaven Martial Talisman realm only occupies an extremely small portion of the original desolate space. It is far from being comparable to when it was at its strongest. During the great calamity of the world, I was also heavily injured. Because the desolate space has already been split into two, the current Heaven Martial Talisman realm is only a small portion of what it used to be. As a result, it is impossible for me to recover. For countless years, I have been supporting the operation of the Heaven Martial Talisman realm and have been constantly exhausting myself. In addition, when the Heaven Martial Academy was destroyed, there was a rather strong person who came to ambush me. The aura on that person's body made me feel the aura of the great calamity. Although the origin of that ambusher was not too strong, he was somewhat related to those experts. However, that fellow did not know the true origin of the Heaven Martial Talisman realm. He also thought that I was only an artifact spirit and wanted to control me. In the end, he was heavily injured by me and hastily fled. However, with my exhaustion, I am unable to support the desolate space anymore. I'm afraid that I won't be able to hold on for much longer. His voice paused for a moment, then the middle-aged man continued to speak. In this space, after I dissipate, the desolate space will have no master. I chose you so that you can fuse with the desolate space and control it. When I dissipate, I will return to my original state and leave behind the soul seed in this desolate space. After you fuse with the soul seed, you will be able to control the desolate space. After you completely fuse with the desolate space and control it, you will have to find another desolate space. Only by obtaining another desolate space will you be able to unleash the true power of the desolate space. At that time, it will be enough for you to become one of the strongest experts in the world. However, even if you are able to find another desolate space in the future, you have to be careful. That desolate space is far, far larger than the desolate space you are in right now. Although I am the true soul of the desolate space, with the desolate space's use, it is enough to create a new soul of the desolate space. When it becomes strong, it will definitely look for you. Otherwise, its Tao will not be complete and it will not be able to step into the strongest realm. As for you, I'm afraid that your strength is far from enough to face it. You have to be careful. Do not let the soul of the desolate space devour you. Also, remember that you cannot expose the desolate space to the outside. In the past few years, the desolate space has been disguised as the Heaven Martial Talisman realm. Even if there were people who wanted to pry, they were all deceived by me. If people know that the desolate space is in your body, the desolate realm, the desolate space there is the Heaven Martial Talisman realm. Alright, you can ask me questions now. You can ask 3 questions. If you ask more, I'm afraid I won't have the energy to answer you. To was NN was to Tuzas was it? Was. Although Du Xiaofu did not say anything when he heard all of this, his mind was intensely fluctuating. There were too many questions and questions in his mind. So the Heaven Martial symbol stage was actually called the Ancient Desolate Space, and it was only an extremely small part of the complete Ancient Desolate Space. That middle-aged man looked no different from an ordinary person. Even Zhang Xian couldn't tell what was different about him. Who would have thought that he was the soul of the desolate space? How long had the desolate space existed? What was the complete desolate space like? What was the relationship between the desolate space and Tianwu Academy? According to the soul of the desolate space, during the calamity of the world, countless experts had fallen. Countless living beings had suffered the calamity and the desolate space had been split into two. What kind of calamity was that? There were too many questions and puzzles, causing Du Xiaofu to be shocked. Mister, what kind of existence is the desolate space? There were too many questions in his mind. After sorting out his thoughts, Du Xiaofu asked the middle-aged man. The desolate space can be said to be a semi-virtual world. Everything that you need to comprehend is within it. Talisman formations, secret arts, beast energy, everything exists. However, the desolate space you're in now is only a small part of it. Resources are scarce and the level of the desolate space isn't high. If you're able to control the complete desolate space and comprehend everything within it, you'll be able to become one of the strongest experts in the world. The middle-aged man said to Du Xiaofu, even though the desolate space you're in now is only a small part of it, as long as you're able to control the desolate space, you'll be able to make use of everything within it. The beast energy, secret arts, and talisman formations within it will all be under your control. If you were to trap an enemy within the desolate space, they would be at your mercy. You'll slowly discover the profoundness and profundity of the desolate space once you're able to control it. Du Xiaofu was astonished by the middle-aged man's words. After which, he asked the middle-aged man, Mister, what's the relationship between the desolate space and Tianwu Academy? The owner of the desolate space is the first principal of Tianwu Academy. You could say that he's my master. Countless years ago, he was the one who founded Tianwu Academy in this desolate land, shocking the entire continent. Over the years, Tianwu Academy has only had a vice principal and not a principal. It's also because of me that I can sense that he's still in this world. It's just that he's unable to extricate himself from the calamity. The middle-aged man said to Du Xiaofu, the reason why I chose you to fuse with the desolate space is because I hope that you'll be able to fuse with the complete desolate space one day. At that time, you'll become an omnipotent expert and have the opportunity to help my master escape from the calamity. I can only leave all of this to you. Over the years, I've been unable to recover the desolate space even if I wanted to. Over the years, I've been choosing those who have the potential to become omnipotent experts. Over the years, there have been many talented individuals in Tianwu Academy, and there are quite a few of them who have the potential to become experts. One of them is called Du Tingxian, your father. However, just as I was about to pick him, that lad never returned to the academy again. There are also a few people with extremely high aptitudes. I remember that one of them is called A.O. Tong, and she should be your mother. The most recent one is Qi Yi Shi, but their backgrounds are too unusual for me to trust, so I can only choose you. Du Xiaofu's heart trembled. He didn't expect Tianwu Academy to have such secrets. Most likely, even Grand Elder Qing Yu was unaware of these secrets. After calming himself down, Du Xiaofu continued asking, Mister, where is the other half of the desolate space now? The middle-aged man shook his head and replied, I don't know either. I'm too weak after the calamity and I'm unable to sense the existence of the other half of the desolate space. Perhaps, a new soul of space has been born in the desolate space and it's afraid that I'll devour it while it's still weak. Mister, Tianwu Academy is facing a calamity. Why didn't you lend a helping hand? Perhaps, you might have been able to save Tianwu Academy from this calamity and save countless students and elders. Du Xiaofu asked. He was still grieving when he recalled the bloody scene. This calamity is incomparable to the calamity of the world back then. Back then, countless experts of Tianwu Academy fell, and countless life forms perished. Many experts fell, and the world was filled with mourning. That was the true calamity. Even though I have a way to save Tianwu Academy from this calamity, what's the use of it? If I were to save Tianwu Academy from this calamity, it would probably bring about the true calamity of Tianwu Academy's destruction. At that time, it would be hard for us to escape from this calamity. Alright, I've already answered your fourth question and I don't have any strength left. Remember, place your soul imprint on my soul seed and fuse it with the desolate space. Also, I've already controlled the flow of time here. You've been in here for 2.5 years, but only 3 months have passed in the outside world. Thus, you can rest assured and fuse with the desolate space here. Once you've fused with the desolate space, you'll be able to control its effects as well. It will be of great help to your cultivation in the future. Even though the calamity has passed, it will return one day. Whether it's a blessing or a calamity, it will depend on you. After the middle-aged man finished his words, his body finally dissipated, turning into talisman inscriptions. Amidst the resplendent glow, a small mysterious ball of light was formed in the air. This small mysterious ball of light was like a small star spinning in the sky. An ancient aura emanated from it, reminiscent of the primordial chaos. After a moment of silence, the space where Du Xiaofu's consciousness was located began to dissipate, and everything gradually returned to normal. It was from the Naiwen Palace in Du Xiaofu's mind. Ripples in space, and waves of invisible mental energy could be felt. Is this the soul seed? Let's begin. Du Xiaofu began to control his mental energy to wrap around the star-like soul seed. According to the space spirit's instructions, he had to place a soul imprint on the soul seed. Only then could he fuse with the desolate space. According to the space spirit, the flow of time in this space had been accelerated by 10 times, just like half a year after the Tianwu conference. With time accelerated by 10 times, Du Xiaofu was not worried about the flow of time in the outside world. In the misty space of the desolate space, Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged with his eyes closed. The mysterious light net on his body continued to release lightning. Buzz buzz, waves of pure lightning energy continued to flow into Du Xiaofu's body, causing the powerful and domineering aura in Du Xiaofu's body to continue to rise. However, with this increase in aura, Du Xiaofu's current level of cultivation would require a little more time to advance. Time continued to pass, and the quiet space fell into silence once more. It's the third night watch again. Xiao Yu is still writing. Thank you, Brother Sunny Phantom Monarch, for your generous reward. Thank you. Chapter 536. Dark City. 3 months after Tianwu Academy was razed to the ground, a shocking piece of news spread throughout the city. The news stated that the Black Fiends sect had invited the other 3 major forces, 1 pavilion, 1 fort, and 2 sects, to form an alliance in 3 days. The moment the news spread, the entire Dark City was shaken. The alliance of the 4 major forces was extraordinary to the entire Dark Forest. Could it be that the 4 major forces are under pressure after Tianwu Academy was destroyed? Is that why they want to form an alliance? That might not be the case. It might be that the 4 major forces want to form an alliance to truly control the entire Dark Forest. That might not be the case. The alliance of the 4 major forces was initiated by the Black Fiends sect. I'm afraid that the Black Fiends sect wants to become the leader of the 4 major forces and become the leader of the alliance. Although the Mu family fort, the Myriad Clouds Pavilion, and the Twin Hatreds sect have agreed to the Black Killing sect's invitation to form an alliance, I'm afraid that the alliance will be successful in the end. Currently, it's still unknown. That's true. Even if the 4 major forces really form an alliance, the Black Fiends sect won't be the leader. No one will be controlled for free. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for the 4 major forces to form an alliance this time. When the news spread, the entire Dark City was in an uproar. Everyone was waiting for the result in 3 days. Chaos Demon City. After 3 months, the news of the World Society's president, Du Xiaofu's death spread. It caused a commotion among the lower and middle levels of the World Society, which had just stabilized recently. Some of them were in a state of panic. Not long ago, a vice president called Du Yunlong had appeared. It was rumored that he was the president's second brother. This caused a commotion among the lower and middle levels of the World Society. Later on, it was rumored that the vice president, Du Yunlong, had defeated a martial Marquis Hall master in one move. This had caused a shock to the lower and middle levels of the World Society. Furthermore, with the Medicine King presiding over the World Society, there weren't many problems in the World Society. After Du Xiaofu's suppression and elimination, many people still had lingering fears and didn't dare to act rashly. Moreover, with Yi Piaoling, Hua Fankong, Xia Wenxing, Bai Qi, and the others around, the World Club was still relatively peaceful. At dusk, above the mountains, the sun was setting in the west. The setting sun slowly penetrated the thin layer of clouds, and the sunset glow spread in all directions, covering half of the sky. Layer by layer, it gradually faded until it became grayish-white. The curtain of night enveloped the sky and the entire Chaos Demon City. 1 pavilion, 1 castle, 2 sects, 4 major powers forming an alliance. I'm afraid their motives aren't simple. Within the world society, in a quiet courtyard, Li Shui was holding a message jade slip in her hand. Her brows were slightly furrowed, and her delicate face was slightly solemn. Dark City. 3 days later, under the attention of almost the entire Dark Forest, the leaders of the 4 major forces gathered in a building outside the 4 major forces to discuss the matter of forming an alliance. Mu Mingqing, Hen Heaven, Hen Earth, Third Fatty Wan, Shui Tianqiu, and the other experts of the 4 major forces appeared one after another. On this day, the entire city was filled with anticipation. However, the location where the 4 great powers were having their discussion was a place where they were prepared for battle. Without a doubt, the other 3 major powers didn't believe the Black Fiends sect at all. They were all prepared. Boom! However, during this discussion, a terrifying aura suddenly spread out, and the entire space fell into chaos and distortion. What's going on? It's a trap. The experts of the other 3 major powers were shocked. Their auras surged, and they clashed with weapons. Everyone, relax. It's just a small talisman array set up by our sect. If someone is spying on it, don't worry. Nothing will happen. Just as the people of the other 3 major powers were at a loss and were about to join forces to deal with the Black Fiend sect, an elder of the Black Fiend sect suddenly came to inform them with concern that the talisman array was set up to guard against spies. Many people of the other 3 major powers were nervous. Sure enough, not long after, the terrifying talisman array really disappeared. After that, news spread from Dark City. 1 pavilion, 1 castle, 2 sects, and the 4 major powers had formed an alliance. The Black Fiend sect's sect master, Shui Tianqiu, had become the leader of the Dark Alliance. When this news spread, it immediately exceeded the expectations of many people, causing them to be taken aback. The next day, the 1 pavilion, 1 castle, and 2 sects formed an alliance. Early in the morning, the sun rose from the east, and the morning glow filled the sky, enveloping Chaos Demon City. In the World Society's main hall, there were only a few higher-ups of the World Society present. Li Shui, Chao Yu, Yi Piaoling, Hua Fankong, Bai Qi, Xia Wenxing, Eagle King, Gong Dao, and the others were all present. The Medicine King sat on the seat of honor, his face slightly pale. In this main hall, there were 2 newcomers at this moment. One of the 2 was a young man in a cloud robe, with shoulder-length black hair that was not tied up. He had a dignified appearance. The cloud robe and black hair complemented his muscular body. On his handsome face, his gaze was extremely deep and sharp. The other person was a woman about the same age. Her figure was graceful, and her black hair was as smooth as a waterfall. Her black hair was loosely tied up, and her eyes were ethereal. Her face was youthful, and there was an indescribable charm to it. This man and woman were the eldest son of the younger generation of the Stone City's Du family, Du Xiaoman, and the second son, Du Yunlong. After Du Yunlong and Du Xiaoman arrived at Chaos Demon City, they immediately entered the World Society. Du Xiaofu had disappeared, and as the vice president, Du Yunlong naturally took over the situation. With the support of the Medicine King, Eagle King, and Gong Dao, as well as Hua Fankong, Xia Wenxing, and Du Xiaofu's trusted aides, Du Yunlong's position as the vice president was not much of a problem. However, Du Yunlong was a newcomer. If he wanted to completely convince everyone, it would naturally take some time. At this moment, everyone in the main hall was seated, and their expressions were rather solemn. Last night, the World Society received a mysterious message jade slip. It said that the 1 pavilion, 1 castle, and 2 sects had formed an alliance. Mountain Man Wuzhen, who had walked out of the World Society, had become the vice leader of the Black Fiend sect. There was also a 5 Poisons Mountain Man, who had become a consecrator of the Black Fiend sect. Consecrator, Vice President, according to the information we received from the Jade Slip, the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects have officially formed an alliance. Xue Tianqiu has successfully become the alliance leader of the alliance, and Mountain Man Wuzhen has also joined the Black Fiend sect. Their alliance is probably extremely disadvantageous to our world society. In the main hall, Li Xue's beautiful brows were slightly furrowed. This was the matter she was most worried about these past few days. If the news is true, after the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects have formed an alliance, their first target is probably our world society. Mountain Man Wuzhen has actually joined the Black Fiend sect, and there's also the Five Poisons Mountain Man. The alliance of the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects is definitely not normal. The Medicine King's expression was slightly serious. The alliance of the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects and Xue Tianqiu of the Black Fiend sect had become the alliance leader naturally had many problems. From his experience, something must have happened in between. Medicine King, what is the background of the Five Poisons Mountain Man? The Eagle King Gong Dao turned to the side and asked the Medicine King Yi Wuming. At this moment, his right arm was covered by his long sleeve, and his face was still pale, as if he had not recovered from his previous heavy injury. The Medicine King frowned and said, "The Five Poisons Mountain Man is an old man who has been famous for a long time. He is a medicine talisman master among spiritual talisman masters, but he cultivates the poison soul cultivation method. His entire body is covered in poison, and his personality is extremely cruel. Many people want to kill him, but they are wary of the poison all over his body. He is also extremely powerful, so he has always been free and unfettered. It is said that he has always been in the central province, but who would have thought that he would come to a remote place like the Dark Forest? Medicine King, Eagle King, this junior has just arrived and is not too clear about the situation in the Dark Forest. Third brother has yet to receive any news about the alliance between the one pavilion, one castle, two sects, and the four great powers. I hope the two of you can make a decision." Du Yunlong stood up and cupped his fists towards the Medicine King and the Medicine King. Although he was the vice president of the World Society, he knew that the Medicine King and the Eagle King were both old members of the World Society. He was full of respect in front of the Medicine King and the Eagle King. Especially when he returned to the Stone City and learned that his uncle was saved by the Medicine King, he was even more grateful. Vice President is too polite. The Medicine King and the Eagle King indicated that Du Yunlong did not need to be so polite. Then, the Medicine King's eyes moved slightly as he looked at the people in the hall and said, "Although the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects have already formed an alliance, and with the addition of Wuzhen Mountain and Five Poisons Mountain, there are many experts and their strength has increased greatly. However, it is not that we do not have the strength to resist. The trump cards in our hands have not reached the point where we cannot resist the four great powers, but," at the end of his words, the Medicine King lightly sighed and said, "But little Qing has been in seclusion all this time. If Du Shaoqing was here, we would not have to worry about the four great powers at all. It would be even better if he was here. Unfortunately, that fellow was too arrogant, and now, Senior Medicine King, Senior Eagle King, did you personally witness third brother's death?" In the hall, Du Xiaoman asked the Medicine King and the Eagle King. Her pitch-black eyes were as clear as a stream, and her gaze was fluctuating. "No, no one saw it with their own eyes." The Medicine King shook his head. He had recalled that scene countless times. Although Du Xiaofu's traces had disappeared, within that dazzling light, no one had personally witnessed his death. If no one saw it with their own eyes, then I believe third brother will definitely be fine. Perhaps third brother will suddenly return not long after. Hearing this, Du Xiaoman's eyes became resolute. From the Stone City Du family, to the Dark Forest, to Tianwu Academy, to the Stone Dragon Empire's Dragon City, her third brother had created one inconceivable miracle after another. This time, she also believed that her third brother would definitely be fine and return safely. I don't know why, but I also believe that he will be fine. Perhaps he will return soon. In the hall, Yi Piaoling, who had always been a man of few words, spoke up. His tone was indifferent, but his eyes were filled with an extremely inexplicable certainty. I also believe it, Li Shui softly said. Her eyes moved slightly, and her graceful body seemed to be silently enchanting. Today's update ends. Tomorrow, I will continue to work hard and ask for more flowers. Thank you. Chapter 537. There were many discussions in the Dark Forest. The formation of the Dark Alliance by the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects shocked everyone. Some of the smaller factions were even more worried. In the past, the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects kept each other in check. They were still able to survive in the cracks. However, now that the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects had formed an alliance, the smaller factions would no longer have a place to stay. The entire Dark Forest would gradually be under the control of the Dark Alliance. In the misty space, Du Xiaofu floated in mid-air and sat cross-legged. Lightning flashed around his body like silver snakes. The lightning energy overflowed continuously. Du Xiaofu's eyes were tightly shut. His aura kept rising. At this moment, in his mind's Naiwen Palace, he was immersed in another strange state. In Du Xiaofu's mind's Naiwen Palace, the spiritual energy seemed to be invisible, but it really existed. It was like countless threads of energy floating around. The spiritual energy was gentle and pure. It rippled and kept wrapping around the star-like ball of energy in his mind's Naiwen Palace. Waves of invisible spiritual energy condensed into lines of mysterious runes and started to flow into the ball of energy. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was setting up the spiritual imprint. This setting up was very complicated. However, the spiritual seed left in the ancient barren space was already in its initial state. It was like a newborn baby. It was extremely pure. Hence, to Du Xiaofu, other than needing some time and complicated process, there was not much danger. Of course, even though there wasn't much danger, it didn't mean that there was no danger at all. Anything related to the spirit wouldn't be easy. To a certain extent, the spiritual seed was definitely the most fragile and untouchable part of a person. If any accident happened, the consequences would be unbearable. Hence, at this moment, Du Xiaofu did not dare to be careless. He focused all his attention on setting up the spiritual imprint. Inside his Naiwen Palace, Du Xiaofu could feel that the ancient desolate space soul seed glowing sphere, which was rotating like a small star, was continuously emitting rich spiritual energy. This kind of energy caused Du Xiaofu's mental spirit to feel a kind of warmth. After a long process, Du Xiaofu's entire mud pill palace began to vibrate as a formless spiritual energy entered the barren ancient space soul seed. Qi, at this moment, the space spirit seed that was rotating like a small star also trembled slightly. In an instant, a strange energy spread out and released a dazzling, gentle, and pure light in the Naiwen Palace. It lit up the entire Naiwen Palace. Boom! Although this light was gentle and pure, its aura was ancient and domineering, vigorous and surging. This ancient, domineering, and vigorous energy was released from the Naiwen Palace. It immediately caused Du Xiaofu's mind to tremble. Then, it was as if a huge reservoir had opened its gate and poured a torrent of water into a small river. It caused Du Xiaofu's Naiwen Palace to swell painfully. It was as if his Naiwen Palace was about to explode. Pfft, this was the Naiwen Palace. The spiritual seed was the most fragile and untouchable part of the Naiwen Palace. With such a torrent of energy pouring down, Du Xiaofu could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. The flashing lightning around Du Xiaofu's body also suddenly stopped and dimmed for a moment. However, it gradually recovered. Within the Naiwen Palace in his mind, Du Xiaofu was feeling excruciating pain. The immense energy that was spreading out from the soul seed in the ancient desolate space was also a kind of spiritual existence. At this moment, it wanted to fuse with Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu had placed a spiritual imprint in the space spirit seed. The two of them were like one. At this moment, the spiritual energy from the space spirit seed was pouring down. If this domineering and vigorous spiritual energy from the space spirit seed completely occupied the Naiwen Palace in his mind, he would not be the one controlling the space spirit in the future. Instead, the space spirit would control him and he would become a walking corpse. Not good. Under such a change, Du Xiaofu could not help but gasp in the depths of his soul. The space spirit did not tell him this. If the spiritual energy from the space spirit seed occupied his Naiwen Palace, he would be in trouble. Buzz! Just as Du Xiaofu was feeling anxious, the sound of wind and thunder suddenly resounded in his mind's Naiwen Palace, causing him to tremble. Walala, after that, Du Xiaofu could clearly feel that in his Naiwen Palace, there was suddenly a dazzling radiance. Following which, there were mysterious runes flashing and turning into a series of unfamiliar characters. When these characters appeared, they immediately released an ancient radiance. It was like a divine radiance that shone in the Naiwen Palace. Du Xiaofu recognized these unfamiliar characters. They were the mysterious incomplete cultivation method's mnemonic chant. At this moment, these unfamiliar characters were like dazzling ancient runes. They bloomed in the Naiwen Palace in his mind like fireworks. As the radiance bloomed in the Naiwen Palace, it enveloped the spiritual energy from the space spirit seed. It was as if the spiritual energy was going to devour it. Although the spiritual energy on the ancient desolate space soul seed was gentle and pure, just like a newborn baby, its ancient and overbearing aura was able to directly resist the mysterious Qi method chant. From this, it could be seen that if the space spirit seed was originally the middle-aged man and had its own will, the mysterious incomplete cultivation technique would not be able to envelop the space spirit seed. At this moment, when the two energies collided, Du Xiaofu felt an unprecedented swelling pain in his mind. It was as if his mind was about to explode. Could it be that this mysterious cultivation technique is able to refine spiritual energy? Du Xiaofu suddenly thought of something. He immediately activated the mysterious incomplete cultivation technique and recited the unfamiliar characters in his mind. Walala, as he activated the mysterious cultivation technique, Du Xiaofu could clearly feel that the unfamiliar characters seemed to be alive. They started to become more powerful. The huge amount of soul energy poured out from the ancient barren space soul seed was immediately refined by the mysterious cultivation method and turned into the soul energy that he needed. As the mysterious incomplete cultivation technique was activated, the space spirit seed trembled slightly. The pure, gentle, ancient and domineering spiritual energy immediately spread out and poured into Du Xiaofu's mind. Finally, under Du Xiaofu's refinement, the spiritual energy was continuously turned into spiritual energy for Du Xiaofu. The spiritual energy that poured out from the space spirit seed was different. It was extraordinary and could not be compared to ordinary spiritual energy. It made Du Xiaofu feel that his soul was immersed in a gentle and warm light. It was as if he was a fetus in his mother's womb. Walala, the pure, ancient and domineering spiritual energy poured out from the space spirit seed, creating waves of sound. Spiritual energy was continuously poured into Du Xiaofu's Naiwen Palace. As the vast spiritual energy poured out, Du Xiaofu felt that the spiritual energy in his Naiwen Palace could not be compared to the spiritual energy in the space spirit seed. The spiritual energy in the space spirit seed was much more powerful. Du Xiaofu had placed his soul imprint in the ancient barren space soul seed. Therefore, it was easy for him to refine it. The two spiritual energies did not confront each other at all. They merged easily. While Du Xiaofu was frantically refining the spiritual energy that poured out from the soul seed in the ancient desolate space, a layer of white divine light was gradually wrapped around the silver snake-like lightning glow on the surface of Du Xiaofu's body. An ancient aura continued to ripple. Walala, the spiritual energy in the space spirit seed was being refined by Du Xiaofu. The lightning around Du Xiaofu's body was also covered. The white divine light around his body formed circles of invisible waves in the misty space. With Du Xiaofu as the center, it slowly spread out. The white divine light was dazzling and ancient. It set off Du Xiaofu's naked body, making him look like a pure son of God. He was extremely mysterious and breathtaking. However, no one could touch this space at this moment. Otherwise, they would definitely be dumbfounded. At this moment, the ancient and domineering aura that emanated from Du Xiaofu's clone was terrifying. It was enough to cause everyone to tremble violently. It caused their minds to tremble and their souls to prostrate before it. Time passed slowly. The white divine light on Du Xiaofu's body became more and more dazzling. The ancient and domineering aura also became more and more intense. However, the space spirit seed in the space spirit seed was becoming smaller and smaller. Its aura also became weaker and weaker. Although the speed at which the energy dissipated was extremely slow for a desolate space soul seed, it was only a matter of time before it would be completely refined. Du Xiaofu was now immersed in the sea of spiritual energy. He was unaware of everything else. Within the spiritual energy fluctuation in Du Xiaofu's mind, a vigorous fluctuation was becoming more and more intense. It was quietly gathering. His spiritual energy was constantly rising. It was rising at an extremely terrifying rate. At this moment, even if the King of Medicine were here to see Du Xiaofu's spiritual energy rising at such a terrifying speed, he would be so shocked that his mouth would dry up and he would swallow his saliva. This was simply abnormal. It was extremely difficult for other talisman masters to cultivate their spiritual energy. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu's spiritual energy was rising at a speed as if it was flying. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.